A cuckoo bird pops out of a clock with a loud mechanical chirp, setting a dark and eerie mood under the red-lit surroundings. It's me, 7 p.m. Korean time.
Target eliminated.
Are there any inconveniences in Korea? Since I'm a student, not being able to buy cigarettes. The withdrawal. I feel like sucking on a pacifier. If I had known this would happen, I should have packed my suitcase full of them when I came in. Back in the day, even elementary schoolers ran errands for their dad's booze and smokes. Did Korea's warm hospitality vanish once it became a developed country? Then again, it has changed beyond recognition in just 10 years. It's like a futuristic city now. I see expensive cars everywhere. An elegant woman steps out of a red luxury sports car with scissor doors as the boy walks past with an indifferent expression. The standard of living, the environment, even the way people live. So much has changed. There was nothing this big before. Did the duck grow along with the country status? A lot has changed, but the cherry blossoms here are still the same. Mom, did you see that duck? Now I want duck soup. I knew you would, so I already made a reservation. The young man pauses, a wave of nostalgia washing over him as pink cherry blossom petals drift past his face. Wow! Popcorn is falling from the trees. That's not popcorn, those are cherry blossoms. My sweet boy, should we go to the theater for some real popcorn? Is there a movie you want to see? The female professor's secret lesson? Oh, Dad wants to see it too. Honey? He walks down the scenic pink carpeted path alone, surrounded by beautiful blooming cherry blossoms. A faint, nostalgic smile plays on his lips as he remains lost in his memories. Beep! Jeez, can't even give me a moment to reminisce. Well then, time to get to work. It's way up there. Supermarket, huh? Now this feels like a place where real people live. Excuse me, is anyone here? No one? Well, while I wait, maybe I'll have a smoke? Is a student allowed to smoke? There you are. I'm just running an errand for my dad. Here, my dad's card.
Put it on a 36-month installment plan, please.
The shopkeeper crouches on the floor, staring up at the credit card with a skeptical, silent gaze. I'm a customer too, you know? Oops, sorry. I watched a lot of K-dramas while living abroad. You look just like the shopkeepers in those shows, so I got confused. No way, I only recently got back from abroad myself. Oh, what a coincidence. Indeed, quite a coincidence.
And by pure coincidence.
You worked in the same line of work as me. A somber family photo stands on a table next to a plate of fruit and a kitchen knife, symbolizing the high personal cost and domestic fragility associated with a life of violence. Contract kill? Before the sentence can even be completed, a sudden and calculated preemptive strike cuts through the air, aiming to eliminate the threat with maximum efficiency. A contract killer from abroad. A hand rests on the counter next to a utility knife, representing a cold calculation of risk where any nearby object must be evaluated for its lethal utility. Are you here to kill me? The young man reacts instantly to the sudden hostile shift in his environment, assessing the situation as a threat to his physical survival. You catch on quick. With an unsettlingly calm demeanor, the young agent acknowledges his target's high situational awareness, knowing that reducing emotional interference leads to a more predictable outcome. Traitor to the organization, the veteran agent faces the grim reality of his past choices as a powerful counterstrike is initiated, a consequence of violating the systemic rules that govern their survival. You killed members of the organization and fled? The veteran swiftly dodges a lethal blow, his reflexes honed by years of prioritizing survival over all other human endeavors. I'm here to eliminate you. A direct, high-impact clash occurs in the cramped store aisle, where the ultimate consequence of betrayal must be enforced to maintain systemic order. That card you have. The young agent looks on with cold curiosity, evaluating the strategic significance of the credit card that initiated this confrontation. In the organization, depending on an agent's rank, they issue cards of different colors. A visual hierarchy of gold, silver, blue, and navy cards represents a calculated system of incentives designed to maximize agent productivity and loyalty. And among them, black. A highly coveted black card is displayed, representing the absolute pinnacle of authority, resource allocation, and destructive capability within the system. Is a card given only to the highest-ranking agents. The young man stands in the convenience store, his possession of the legendary black card signifying an immense concentration of systemic power and lethal efficiency. I've never even heard of it. The veteran drops to one knee holding a simple cutter knife, forced to recalculate his odds against an opponent of unprecedented rank and capability. To think an agent as young as you was issued a black card. I'm flattered. Getting a compliment from a veteran senior like you? The young agent cracks his knuckles, preparing to execute his mission with the practice ease of an optimized weapon. The veteran senior glares intensely, his mind processing the high-stakes cost-benefit analysis of a fight he is highly unlikely to win. "Where's your weapon?" "Huh?" The young agent stretches casually, seemingly unbothered by the lack of conventional tools, suggesting his own body is a highly optimized instrument of harm. "Did you seriously come here empty-handed? It got confiscated at airport security." The young man raises his hands with a casual shrug, demonstrating how bureaucratic safety regulations can disrupt even the most highly planned operations. To think a black rank would be this sloppy. Unbelievable. The veteran prepares his utility knife, viewing his opponent's apparent lack of preparation as a critical tactical vulnerability that can be exploited for a swift resolution. Rule number 1 of assassination. With cold focus, the veteran snaps off the dull segment of his blade, restoring its maximum cutting efficiency to minimize any margin of error. A weapon, the snapped blade tip is flicked with lethal speed toward the young agent's face, a sudden attack designed to neutralize the target instantly and minimize unnecessary prolonged conflict. Rule number 2 of assassination. The young agent reacts with near instantaneous speed, redirecting his energy to counter the incoming projectile with optimal defense. Surprise attack. The veteran launches a ferocious aerial assault utilizing gravity and speed to maximize the kinetic force of his strike. A blinding vertical flash cuts through the dark space as the two lethal forces collide, each calculating their movements to the millisecond to preserve their own lives. Why? The veteran looks down with a deeply troubled expression, his mind weighed down by the heavy emotional tax of his past decisions. Why did you betray the organization? The veteran grabs the young man's collar, demanding an explanation for an action that goes against the logical survival instincts of any high-ranking agent. An agent of your caliber? The young agent catches the veteran's wrist with absolute precision, easily neutralizing the threat of the blade. Must have enjoyed countless benefits from the organization. So why did you betray them? They stand amidst the spilled goods and liquid on the floor, the mess symbolizing the chaotic destruction left in the wake of systemic rebellion. Close up on the veteran's grim expression as he prepares to voice the painful reality of his existence, where material benefits failed to outweigh his psychological suffering. A tin can. A discarded, open tin can of tuna sits on a shelf, serving as a bleak metaphor for a life completely devoid of autonomy and self-determination. A tin can? Every single day. The young agent looks on as the veteran begins to articulate the immense psychological toll of living as a highly controlled asset. Felt like being trapped inside a tin can. The young man gently deflects the veteran's hand, processing the concept of a life where the total lack of freedom creates a massive deficit of happiness. The veteran lunges forward with a flurry of rapid slashes, desperate to end the debate through physical dominance and secure his survival. With supreme agility, the young agent weaves through the razor-sharp attacks, minimizing his own risk of injury while letting his opponent expend valuable physical energy. Slices of meat fall from a container cut open during the clash, a visual reminder of how easily flesh can be destroyed when exposed to unchecked violence. That's a nice metaphor. The young agent holds up a sharp, metallic tin lid, having repurposed a common household item into an optimized tool of defense. Did you take a creative writing class at the local community center? The veteran eyes him warily, realizing his opponent can effortlessly find lethal utility in any surrounding object. Don't you already know? The veteran stands firm, acknowledging that they both share the same fundamental understanding of the organization's soul-crushing costs. A massive clash of metallic force erupts as they engage in a high-speed struggle, each trying to tip the scales of survival in their favor. Just doing whatever the organization orders, a small, discarded snack packet flies through the air as the veteran laments the mechanical, mindless obedience demanded by their masters. Living as a hunting dog until the day you die, the veteran strikes with desperate intensity, refusing to accept a life where his utility is entirely exploited for the benefit of others. A hellish existence. Sparks fly in the darkness as they trade blows, a manifestation of the intense friction between systemic control and the raw human desire for autonomy. The veteran's eyes widen with a desperate, singular focus driven by the ultimate pursuit of personal agency. Wanted to be free! He unleashes a final, desperate strike, committing all his remaining strength to a single action in hopes of escaping his torment. The young agent moves with imperceptible speed, demonstrating the vast disparity in their physical capabilities as he gains the tactical advantage. A swift, clean counterstrike slashes through the air, drawing blood and signaling the inevitable tragic end of the confrontation. But in exchange for that freedom, you must have lost something. The young man looks back with a cold, analytical perspective, reminding the veteran of the severe consequences of defying a powerful system. I did just one thing. The veteran stands bleeding but remarkably at peace, accepting the final outcome of his high-risk gamble. With a repurposed tin lid embedded in his neck, the veteran looks up with a serene expression, realizing that death is the only path left to permanently end his suffering. Once the organization realized I betrayed them, they killed my family. The young agent stands silently before the blurred family photo, a stark reminder of the devastating collateral damage that results from systemic defiance. The organization tracks down the identities of an agent's family and keeps them under constant surveillance. To prevent betrayal, the veteran charges forward in a tragic final flashback, illustrating how the system ruthlessly neutralizes any threat to its operational stability as hostages. Even if you regret it now. Are you saying it's too late? The veteran agent lies defeated, his breathing heavy as the red light of the convenience store casts long, somber shadows over him. As the price of freedom, I had to pay with my family's lives. That was a cheap price to pay. Every single one of you, all of you. You all spout the same annoying nonsense. This is a store I used to visit often, and I've known the owner for a long time. But today, of all days, he looked like he was about to collapse. Out of concern, I told him, "Why don't you close up and get some rest?" And do you know what he said? "If I rest, how will I feed my family, my friend?" A truly good man, right? A dedicated family man working himself to the bone for his bedridden wife and young, naive children. In a tiny Tenpyong shop, spending his entire life sacrificing for his family. Standing behind the glass door stained with blood, the young agent stares blankly, engulfed in the grim aftermath of the confrontation. What an idiot! That's your reason for killing him? It's just so annoying. Sacrificing for family and talking as if he's happy. You work to protect your family too, don't you? Suddenly, a strange sound echoes through the shelves as a thick reddish smoke begins to envelop the room, catching the young agent off guard. That's why you've kept going all this time. That's why you still live as the organization's hunting dog. Let me give you a piece of advice as your senior. Family is a leash. With a soft click, the tension in the room snaps, and the young agent senses another incoming threat. A sudden, violent explosion tears through the shelves, sending canned goods and debris flying in all directions. If I have to live my whole life bound by a leash? Seizing the moment of chaos, the veteran lunges forward from the shadows, blade in hand, aiming directly at the young agent's blind spot. In a flash of blinding light and metal, a lethal strike is unleashed, cutting through the red haze with terrifying speed. I'd rather cut my own throat. Undeterred by the blood dripping down his face, the veteran stands firm, bracing himself for the final, desperate clash. Oh, what should we do? This blade is a bit too small. What? How did I do it? You should have kept track of where your weapon went. The third rule of assassination? Don't throw things callously. The discarded weapons clatter onto the blood-soaked floor, reflecting the cold, dim light of the convenience store. With just a single piece of a box cutter. From the very beginning, was he playing with me? Not at all. I only wanted to see if there was any other motive behind your betrayal. I meant no ill will. To be this relaxed against me? He really is an agent sent by the organization to kill me? I think you've got it wrong. The reason I came to Korea isn't because of you. The veteran agent looks on in complete shock as the young man reveals, you were just a stop along the way. From above, the young agent looks down at his bleeding senior and continues, the main target I have to eliminate is very special. Looking out toward the red horizon, the young agent admits that this target is special enough that he has to risk his own life. With a cold, steady gaze, he asks the veteran, you said you wanted freedom, right? As the young agent walks away, leaving a silhouette in the red doorway, he coldly tells his senior that he has now found eternal freedom. A wooden cuckoo clock on the wall, drenched in fresh blood, ticks steadily as the hands strike exactly 6 o'clock. A small cuckoo bird pops out of the blood-splattered clock, chirping mechanically into the silent room. Stepping out of the convenience store with his clothes stained in blood, the young agent puts his phone to his ear and reports it's over. Lighting a cigarette against the backdrop of a deep crimson sky, he mutters to himself that for a sub-target, the veteran wasn't a bad warm-up. With a steady, deliberate pace, his feet carry him forward as he heads toward where his main target resides. Standing by the metal railing, the young agent looks out over the sprawling city, completely engulfed in the warm glow of the setting sun. Though he is confident there won't be any issues with the mission, he looks down at his bloody shirt and sighs, realizing he will need to get a new school uniform.
With an AirPod in his ear, he gazes into the distance, preparing himself because starting tomorrow, an aerial view of the school grounds reveals that tomorrow marks the official start of the contract killing mission. Inside a quiet, orderly classroom, the students sit diligently at their desks as a reassuring voice promises not to worry. As a student continues writing, a dark-haired girl sits back thoughtfully, the narration reminding us that everything will be handled just as it has always been done. The black-haired girl looks up in surprise as the sound of a sliding door breaking the silence echoes through the classroom. The young agent steps quietly through the door, his eyes scanning the room where a teacher is busy writing formulas on the chalkboard. Addressing the classroom, the young agent casually explains that he doesn't have a student ID yet, while mentally planning to eliminate his target the moment he spots them. With a cocky, relaxed grin in his new school uniform, the young agent brazenly asks the classroom, "Can you bump me a smoke?" while his dark inner monologue promises swift elimination. Flashback to 1 month ago at the luxurious estate of Manuel Santos, a member of the House of Representatives in the Angelos district. Holding a silver revolver casually near his head, the young agent calmly remarks, "This is unexpected." Surrounded by a small army of armed security guards in the mansion's courtyard, he looks around and wonders, why does a private home have so much security? Facing the crowd of armed guards, the young agent boldly asks the man in the center if he would mind just walking into his own grave. The target is revealed, Manuel Santos, a stern-faced representative of the Angelos district who stands before him with a heavy frown. With a tight, serious expression, the representative slowly replies, "I see." Santos demands the release of his family, who are being held close by the young agent as a blindfolded mother desperately hugs her trembling young son. Tears stream down the mother's face as she tightly embraces her shivering child, whispering, it's okay, sweetie," as he whimpers in fear. Representative Santos pleads with the assassin, insisting that his family has absolutely nothing to do with their conflict. As Santos begs for the hostages to be released, the young agent pauses and thoughtfully considers the request. To everyone's surprise, the young agent smiles warmly and nudges the mother and child forward, casually agreeing, "Sure, why not?" The young agent's inner monologue explains that it is his policy to never harm anyone other than the target unless they attack first. Looking cold and calculating, he smiles slightly, noting that sparing non-targets is his ironclad rule. Seeing his family out of harm's way, Representative Santos murmurs a quiet sigh of relief, thanking goodness. The moment his family is safe, Santos's expression hardens as he commands his men, "Everyone, prepare to fire," pointing multiple guns at the young agent. Undeterred by the weapons aimed at him, the young agent looks on with cold, empty eyes as Santos mocks his soft-hearted decision. With his guard shielding him, Representative Santos smiles arrogantly, admitting he was actually scared at first, thinking the assassin had come from Batala. The scene shifts to a grand, brightly lit gold skyscraper in the heart of the city, the famous Hotel Casino Battaglia. Inside the luxurious casino, a beautiful dealer gracefully slides a fresh deck of cards across the vibrant green table as high rollers place their bets. The narration reveals that behind the flashy exterior of this seemingly ordinary casino lies a highly secretive operation. At the end of a long, pristine walkway stands a special table guarded by a grand golden monument. An influential client sitting in a lavish throne remarks to the staff, "To openly accept contract killings like this, you must be incredibly confident." With a calm and confident expression, the dealer replies that the operations of their casino are something even the government cannot touch. Impressing the client, he notes that their reputation as the best in the business is clearly well-deserved, to which she smoothly agrees. Leaning forward, the client asks if it is truly possible for them to kill the target, and she confidently answers, "Naturally." As she neatly places the deck on the table, she boasts that their casino is comprised only of the most elite contractors in the world. Spreading the deck out meticulously before the client, she invites him to make a selection. "Please choose." Her hand gestures gracefully toward the array of cards, urging him to pick one of these. As she begins to explain that the contractor's rank depends entirely on the card chosen, the client interrupts. "I know." With absolute confidence and wealth at his disposal, the mysterious client prepares to choose the card that will seal his target's fate. Selecting the ace of spades, the influential client confirms his choice, saying, "Spade A, I'll go with this one." Repeating his choice with a slight nod, the dealer replies, "Spade A. An excellent choice." Looking closely at her client, the dealer warns him, saying, "However, the commission fee is extremely high." Gesturing to the massive rows of boxes filled with casino chips on the floor, the client confidently asserts, "That should be more than enough," leaving the dealer in complete shock. Holding the card firmly before her, the client adds, "I want the job done immediately." A bloody scene of a tea set in a book drenched in fresh splatters represents his firm rule: never harm anyone other than the target. Ryu Kangmin lights a cigarette in the darkness, calmly finishing his thought, unless they attack first. Standing in the center of the dark courtyard, surrounded by the bodies of the guards he just decimated, he notes with a dark smile, "Is what I said." Sparing the non-targets, he looks on as the terrified mother holds her child close, gasping in complete shock. Looking over his shoulder as he prepares to leave, the young agent calmly tells him, "I'm sorry about your husband." Leaving the bloody, lifeless body of Representative Santos behind, the young assassin reflects on his path, thinking, "I will pay for them one day." Back in the classroom, the young agent addresses his new classmates, saying, "Hey guys, I don't have an ID yet, so..." With an incredibly brazen and relaxed grin, he casually asks the students, "Anyone got a smoke?" Sweating and adjusting his glasses in total disbelief, the teacher stammers, "What?" When the teacher demands to know who he is, accusing him of trying to trample his authority, he calmly replies that he implies the transfer student, prompting the exasperated teacher to tell him to introduce himself and go to his seat. Facing the quiet and mostly uninterested classroom, the young agent begins, "Nice to meet you." Introducing himself with a smirk, Ryu Kangmin hides his true identity as Batala's elite contractor, Spade A. He lies about his background, telling the class, "I'm from Daejeon," while internally referencing his true origin as a contractor from the shadow organization Batala. He explains to the class that moving to Seoul is essential for getting into a good college, while his inner monologue reveals his real motive: carrying out the mission to eliminate his target. Standing before the high school, his mission demands that he blend in seamlessly, having enrolled under the guise of an ordinary student. Looking over the sprawling city, he knows that any flashy or conspicuous execution is completely out of the question. Looking at the beautiful black-haired girl in class, he thinks about how his cover allows him to approach his targets naturally, while her inner thoughts reveal she is also keeping secrets from her parents. While a muscular, tattooed student sits with a heavy expression at his desk, Ryu Kangmin continues his introduction. With a deceptively warm smile, Ryu Kangmin says, "Nice to meet you all," while his dark thoughts promise their swift elimination. Back in the casino, the dealer informs him that the target holds South Korean nationality and currently resides in Seoul. Twirling his gun thoughtfully on the throne, he mutters, "Korea, huh?" However, looking down at the layout, he warns her, there is one problem with this mission, causing the dealer to ask in surprise, "A problem?" In a shocking twist, she reveals the bizarre catch of the assignment: we don't know who your target is. Dismayed by the lack of details, Ryu Kangmin snaps, "What kind of crazy nonsense is that?" To which she calmly replies, "Exactly what it sounds like." Sliding a document envelope across the green table, she explains, "The only information the client provided is the target's name." Staring intently, he searches for any extra clue, but there are no other personal details. She slams down the target profile, revealing everything else is marked as unknown, leaving him stunned as she confirms none. Staring down at the completely blank profile sheet, he mutters in disbelief, "A target with nothing but a name." A dark silence falls over the young assassin as he contemplates the sheer difficulty of identifying his target under these conditions. His sharp gaze narrows, his focus locking in as he prepares himself to unravel this mystery. Standing tall in his high school uniform in the corridor, Ryu Kangmin assures himself that he has already done his preliminary research. Arriving at his destination, he stands outside classroom 17, realizing this is indeed the target's classroom. The camera zooms in on the classroom sign of 17, marking the starting point of his high school hunt. Peeking through the sliding door with a calculated look, he notes that there is a major problem with the situation. Looking over the busy classroom, he scans the room and spots a vacant desk bathed in sunlight. Focusing on the quiet, empty desk by the window, his worst fears are confirmed. The target isn't coming to school. While pondering his next move, a sudden voice breaks his concentration as a student rudely asks, "Why are you blocking the way, buddy?" To which he mutters in confusion, "Huh?" In the hallway, the tattooed bully lifts his leg to strike a trembling student, shouting, "Do I really?" as the victim whimpers in fear. With terrifying force, the bully unleashes a brutal kick, shouting, "Have to squeeze past you like this?" sending his classmate flying. The student crashes violently against the lockers, sliding down to the floor in absolute agony as the impact echoes through the corridor. Looking down at the groaning student, the bully mocks him, asking if the automatic door sensor is broken because the door won't open, drawing a chuckle from a nearby girl who responds, "What?" Turning her head with a curious, amused smile, the black-haired girl gasps, "Huh?" as she notices the new transfer student. As she spots him standing nearby, she realizes who he is and mutters, "It's the transfer student." Stepping forward with her group, she looks at him playfully and asks, "Why are you all alone?" With an incredibly calm and collected expression, Ryu Kangmin replies, "Because I don't have any friends," while his inner monologue contemplates, "Should I go with plan B?" In a secluded corner, a high school student brings a cigarette to his lips and takes a deep drag. Squatting down, he exhales a thick cloud of smoke with a wild, menacing laugh on his face. High above the alleyway, a group of delinquent students watch him, impressed by his brazen attitude and casual humor. Looking up while holding his cigarette, he responds to their questioning, confirming that he indeed transferred there from Daejeon. The heavily tattooed leader of the group squats down, pinning him with a sharp glare as he asks if he knows Lee Sing-won, the notorious top dog of Daejeon. A heavy, tense silence falls over the alleyway as the delinquents wait for the new kid's response. With a deceptively smooth smile, Ryu Kangmin claims he knows Sungwon well, fabricating a story about drinking together to build up his false high school persona. Crouching nearby, a pretty female student smiles in amusement, completely buying his story about his supposed wild past in Daejeon. Ryu Kangmin casually downplays his connection to the top dog, claiming they were just friends, which only makes him seem even tougher to the gang. Convinced of his status, the tattooed leader stands up and confidently offers his hand, inviting him to be friends. Ryu Kangmin reaches out to accept the handshake with a dark, calculated smirk, realizing these delinquents will be his first friends in Korea. As the school day ends, the orange glow of the sunset bathes the streets as students make their way home across the crosswalk. Walking amidst the crowd, Ryu Kangmin maintains his quiet, unassuming cover under the fading evening light. His new classmates ask if he is heading straight to the academy, mentioning that their shuttle van is already waiting for them. Ryu Kangmin sighs heavily, his face filled with dread as the sliding door of the school van opens. Watching his classmates board the academy shuttle, he bids them a quiet farewell as they complain about being dragged away. Left alone on the sidewalk, Ryu Kangmin stands silently in the dimming sunset, watching the shuttle bus pull away. His gaze drops to his high school uniform and bright red tie, a stark contrast to his dark secret life. The sound of a car door closing triggers a painful memory from his childhood, bringing back whispers of his mother and father. In a dark, cramped space, a bruised and battered young boy huddles in absolute terror, crying out in fear. He remembers being urgently shoved toward a boat as frantic voices yelled to get him on board. Shivering in the dark, the terrified boy sat on the floor of the vessel as it swayed violently against the waves. He vividly recalls the cold words of his captors planning to take him to Angelos. Looking out from his dark confinement, the young child was met by the imposing, faceless silhouettes of the men who sealed his fate. Back in the present, Ryu Kangmin looks over his shoulder with a melancholic expression, reflecting on the day that changed his life forever. Walking alone under the streetlights, he wonders if his life would be normal and real today instead of a manufactured cover story, if not for that fateful day. Suddenly, a girl's hands grab hold of his arm as she stumbles against him with a startled gasp. It is Ha-yeon, the black-haired girl from his class, who smiles sweetly and claims she almost tripped just to get close to him. Walking side by side along the street, she tests him by asking if he remembers the names of their classmates, Chul-min and Ha-yeon. When he asks if she is heading home, she replies that she is exhausted after her first day and wants to head straight home. She gazes at him with a deeply suggestive, flirtatious look, hinting that she has other plans in mind. Ryu Kangmin looks back at her in confusion as she asks if he wants to go somewhere to relax. Soon, they arrive inside a room bathed in a warm, cozy pink neon glow. Ryu Kangmin sits on the edge of the bed, his eyes widening in shock as the girl suddenly begins to slide her uniform jacket off. From a high angle, the pink-lit motel room is revealed as Ha-yeon undresses, teasingly asking him if the room is comfortable. She points out the large television screen and a PS5 console, telling them they can watch TV and play video games. She gestures to a well-stocked snack bar filled with rows of instant ramen and a hot water dispenser for when they get hungry. A close-up of her glossy red lips shows a sly, knowing smile forming in the neon light. Tucking her hair behind her ear, she looks at him with a flushed face and suggestive eyes, whispering that they can eat delicious food. She walks toward the bed, discarding her jacket onto the floor and inviting him to take his pick. Leaning over him on the mattress, she looks down with a playful, seductive smile and asks what he wants to do first. Lying flat on his back, Ryu Kangmin looks up in utter disbelief, his inner monologue asking if this is what people call bullying. Suddenly, a blinding flash of phone cameras cuts through the dark pink room as the other delinquent boys emerge from hiding, snapping photos of him. The boys burst into malicious, mocking laughter, thoroughly enjoying the trap they have sprung on the new transfer student.
One of the bullies holds up his phone, recording Ryu Kangmin's stunned expression and laughing hysterically at his face.
They mock his terrified posture on the bed, laughing and filming him while joking that he looks like he's about to wet his pants. Hayan bursts out laughing as well, holding her stomach and boasting about how hilarious her acting was. Sitting on the bed, Ryu Kangmin plays along with his weak cover, whimpering and asking why they are doing this to him. The tattooed leader steps forward with a cruel smile, looking down at him and saying that he's the one who has questions for Ryu Kangmin from Daejeon. Flashback bubbles recall their earlier conversation about the top dog of Daejeon, revealing that the gang has already caught on to Ryu Kangmin's lies. Ryu Kangmin looks on in surprise as a speech bubble reveals the shocking truth about his cover story. He can't drink. Apparently he's had a liver condition since he was a kid. Standing in the pink-lit motel room, the tattooed leader confronts Ryu Kangmin, explaining, "I called and asked him and he had no idea who you were." A speech bubble below replies in disbelief, "No way, haha." Looking down at the new transfer student with a smug smile, the delinquents surround him as the leader asks, "Did you want to make a fresh start at a new school? If so, you made it way too obvious." As Ryu Kangmin defensively raises his hand, stating, "Well, you see what happened was," the blonde bully cuts him off, shouting, "Looking for cigarettes during class was the first red flag," before slamming a brutal slap across his face with the words, "Too late, dumbass." Ryu Kangmin stands with a bruised cheek under the dim light, listening to the leader's harsh decree, "From now on, during every break, you're going to be our class's automatic door." Leaning in close, the blonde bully and Hayan wear malicious smiles as they whisper to him, "Let's finish what we started, shall we?" Reaching out with aggressive force, the bully grabs Ryu Kangmin's school shirt, popping the buttons as he mocks him. "Our dear Kangmin." With a violent tear, the bully rips Ryu Kangmin's shirt completely open from behind, shouting, "Let's see some skin." Suddenly, the tattooed leader stands frozen, looking over his shoulder in utter shock as he gasps, "Huh?" The delinquents look on in absolute disbelief, their eyes wide as they stammer, at the sight of what lies beneath Ryu Kangmin's uniform. The camera zooms in on the back of Ryu Kangmin's head and neck, capturing the sudden change in the atmosphere. Looking down from a high angle into a grand hall, Ryu Kangmin reflects on the assignment, thinking, "A target with nothing but a name. Interesting." At a card table, the female dealer slides a document envelope forward, noting, "This request." Ryu Kangmin forcefully slams his hand down on the target profile, stating flatly, "I decline." Holding a heavy revolver, Ryu Kangmin questions the dealer, asking, "Why is that? Do you know how many people share that name in Korea? Are you telling me to kill every single one of them?" Looking down with a heavy, serious gaze, his inner monologue notes, "Telling me to go to Korea all of a sudden?" Staring down at a pair of first-class boarding passes from KOR to PHI, he realizes, once the job is done, I have to return to Batala anyway. Looking closely at the tickets, he ponders, if at that moment, thoughts of my family hold me back. Staring with quiet determination, he continues to reflect, if my desire to be with them grows so strong that I do something I shouldn't? Camera focuses on a card deck topped with a sinister Joker card showing a skull and a jester hat as he concludes, "And the organization, my family." Ryu Kangmin reacts in surprise as the dealer calmly assures him, "You don't need to worry about that." She stares at him with an intense focus, continuing, "This request is unlike any mission you have ever carried out." Staring down at the top of his head, a large bubble echoes his internal disbelief. Freedom? Staring directly ahead, Ryu Kangmin's gaze hardens with a mixture of hope and intensity. The dealer holds her documents and looks at him directly, confirming his thoughts as he asks, "You're saying after this mission is over, I don't have to come back here?" Back in the motel room, the blonde bully breaks out in a cold sweat, trembling in absolute terror as he stammers, What am I looking at?" While Ryu's inner monologue notes, "A mission that could be my last." Hayon and the other delinquents sweat profusely, completely stunned as she mutters, That bastard," while Ryu Kangmin tells himself, "I must succeed." Her mouth hangs wide open in sheer horror as blood splatters across the room, matching Ryu's calculation to approach the influential figures in the school. Another delinquent screams in terror as blood drops fly through the pink-lit air, highlighting Ryu's strategy to create a persona that would interest them. Looking down at the beaten and bleeding delinquent on the floor, Ryu Kangmin sighs and remarks, "Controlling my strength is harder than I thought." Turning his gaze to the terrified leader, Ryu Kangmin orders, "Next, step up." Buttoning his sleeve with eyes glowing red with murderous intent, Ryu Kangmin reveals a torso covered in countless jagged battle scars, declaring, "Let's try that again." The scene shifts back to 6 years ago on Kamatayan, a lush and uninhabited private island of Batala. A rusted public address speaker system stands high against a clear sky, blaring the announcement, 7 minutes elapsed. Overlooking the jungle and sandy shore where a black flag waves, the speakers announce time remaining 3 minutes. Deep underwater, a stream of bubbles rises rapidly toward the light with a soft bubbling sound. Bound tightly from head to toe in heavy steel chains and anchored to a massive tire, a young Ryu Kongmin struggles underwater as the speaker asks, "Are you waiting to become shark bait, trainee Ryu Kongmin?" Gasping for any remaining air underwater, the young boy struggles in agony as his profile is displayed, trainee number 55 Ryu Kongmin, Batala Training Institute. As the chains clank softly underwater, the announcement continues. 8 minutes elapsed. By now, bubbles burst from his mouth in absolute pain as the voice warns, the capillaries in your lungs should be bursting. On the sunny shore, shattered pieces of heavy iron chains lie discarded on the wet sand. A small pink octopus rests on top of wet black hair, letting out a soft sigh. Whew. A giant speech bubble over the ocean waves captures his thoughts. I almost became an all-you-can-eat buffet for the fish. Ryu Kongmin lies flat on the beach in his wetsuit, completely exhausted, with a chain still around his neck and a tiny octopus sitting on his head. Walking slowly away from the shore, he mutters, "Grandmother in heaven, your adorable grandson, it seems it's not my time to join you yet." He closes his eyes and takes a deep, relieving breath, sighing, "Phew," as water drips down his face. Suddenly, the cold barrel of a pistol is pressed against the back of his head as a warning box reads, "Time limit," to which he mutters in shock. Huh? A heavily tattooed, scarred trainer wearing aviators and a floral shirt smiles down at him, saying coldly, "Over by 1 minute." Staring down in resignation, the young boy thinks, "Grandmother, I think I'm coming," before a loud gunshot rings out, sending birds scattering into the sky. The black flag of the Batala organization, adorned with a gold letter B and elaborate patterns, waves triumphantly in the sea breeze. The heavily scarred trainer wearing aviators looks down with a faint sigh, murmuring, In an incredible turn of events on the beach, the young trainee Ryu Kongmin hangs upside down with his legs wrapped around the trainer's neck, holding a gun directly to his chin as the trainer exclaims, "Grandmother fucker." Looking up at the boy with amusement, the trainer compliments his resourcefulness, remarking that using one's surroundings to escape a crisis is a very professional way of thinking. He notes with intrigue that the boy didn't even flinch with a gun pressed against his face, asking if that daring move was his final struggle before dying. Standing on the beach with a small octopus on his shoulder, young Ryu Kongmin looks back with cold, dead eyes, replying that it's simply common sense and asking if the trainer thinks he is an idiot. As the tiny octopus crawls next to an empty bullet shell on the sand, Ryu Kongmin explains that the first shot is always a blank, loaded as a fake to prevent accidental discharges. Ryu Kongmin forcefully chambers the next round, warning the trainer that from here on out, the gun is loaded with live ammunition. Pointing the heavy pistol directly ahead with absolute resolve, the young boy looks down his sights and coldly asks, "The real deal, right?" Back in the pink-lit motel room, Ryu Kongmin reminds himself that despite everything, his current opponents are just ordinary high school kids. Buttoning his shirt cuffs with a weary sigh, Ryu Kongmin asks himself what he is even doing, realizing he needs to approach this situation the right way. The close-up of a delinquent's face captures his absolute terror as he swallows hard, sweating profusely under the pink neon lights. Bending down to pick up his scattered buttons from the floor, Ryu Kongmin sets his plan in motion, saying his buttons fell off to establish a justification for a fight. Reflecting on the bully's violent slaps and torn shirt, Ryu Kongmin notes that the encounter must not look like a one-sided beatdown, but rather a fight they both agreed to. Standing by the bed, Ryu Kongmin quietly laments that he just bought a school uniform, while his eyes drift toward a red fire extinguisher. Incensed by his calm demeanor, the blonde bully lifts the fire extinguisher high overhead, screaming in a rage, asking why the hell he is worrying about his uniform. With a wild swing, the bully crashes the fire extinguisher down, shouting that Ryu Kongmin is about to end up in a hospital gown anyway. Ryu Kongmin effortlessly evades the heavy blow, calmly remarking that he hopes the bully has good health insurance. Catching the heavy canister with his bare hands, Ryu Kongmin stares back with a chilling smile, replying that he doesn't have any insurance himself. The heavy fire extinguisher clatters onto the floor, leaving the delinquents sweating in disbelief as they stammer in shock that he stopped it with his bare hands. Ryu Kongmin steps forward and grabs the blonde bully's face with a crushing grip, telling him that since he's feeling generous, he's going to make a lasting impression. With explosive speed, Ryu Kongmin drives the bully backward, bypassing any defense as the onlookers gasp in disbelief that he broke through so easily. With overwhelming force, Ryu Kongmin slams the delinquent's head violently into the floor, completely shattering their resistance.
A tense silence grips the room as the remaining delinquents realize they are dealing with a monster, and the name Ryu Kong-min begins to etch itself into their minds.
Hyan and the other delinquents stand frozen in horror, staring at the cloud of dust near the bed as they realize the sheer gravity of what just happened. The blonde bully lies completely unconscious on the mattress, his face buried as the realization of Ryu Kong-min's terrifying strength is deeply engraved as a threat. Staring down at her defeated accomplice, Hyan trembles in absolute horror, stammering, "What is this?" Turning his dark, piercing gaze over his shoulder, Ryu Kong-min calmly tells the remaining delinquents that he has just one question for them. Terrified out of their minds, the delinquents cover their heads and cower, desperately crying out that he wouldn't hit a girl, with one of the boys hysterically screaming that he is actually a girl too. Ryu Kong-min ignores their hysterics and asks about the other member of their group, wanting to know about the friend they hang out with. An empty desk sits bathed in sunlight in a quiet classroom, as Ryu Kong-min identifies his target, the returning student next door who frequently skips class. Walking slowly toward the cowering delinquent, Ryu Kong-min asks if he knows where this student is, while the terrified boy desperately asks why he wants to know. Ryu Kong-min tilts his head with a cold, intimidating glare, asking if there is any particular reason why he shouldn't know. An extreme close-up of the delinquent's eye captures his pupils dilated in sheer terror as a silent whimper escapes his throat. Driven by pure survival instinct, the boy lets out a terrified shriek and scrambles to run away, his footsteps pounding against the floor. He barricades himself inside the bathroom, slamming the door shut and screaming that he knows he will get beaten up anyway because Ryu Kong-min is absolutely terrifying. Ryu Kong-min stands right outside the bathroom door with a dark, unsettling smile, softly coaxing the boy to come out and promising that he really won't hit him. Confused by the sudden silence, the delinquent inside the bathroom turns around, uttering a bewildered, "Huh?" Ryu Kong-min walks through the open door, looking around the empty bathroom in surprise as he wonders where the boy could have gone. Suddenly, the delinquent leaps out from behind the door, wrapping a metallic shower hose tightly around Ryu Kong-min's neck and boasting with a sinister grin about his scared acting. Tightening his grip on the hose, the boy screams maniacally, declaring that his ultimate dream is to win Best Supporting Actor at the Black Dragon Film Festival. Unbothered by the chokehold, Ryu Kong-min flexes his muscles and effortlessly tears the metal hose to pieces with his bare hands. The delinquent stands completely frozen in shock as Ryu Kong-min turns around and calmly remarks that he is actually a pretty good actor himself. The atmosphere shifts instantly, turning the scene into a brutal action thriller. Ryu Kong-min leaps high into the air, unleashing a devastating flying kick aimed directly at his attacker. The explosive impact of the kick completely shatters the bathroom wall, sending tiles, pipes, and debris flying in all directions. Water sprays violently from the broken pipes as the sequence enters its final phase of complete domination. The delinquent lies defeated and soaking wet on the ruined bathroom floor as the sheer terror of Ryu Kong-min is deeply instilled into his instincts. Back in the bedroom, Hyan clutches her head and lets out a blood-curdling scream of pure terror. The tattooed leader grabs Hyan's hand and urges her to flee, frantically calculating that they can pull ahead by over 4 meters per second if they use an electric scooter, while Ryu Kong-min's voice echoes from behind. Standing in the doorway of the ruined bathroom, soaking wet with his shirt open, Ryu Kong-min looks down with a cold, ruthless gaze and asks why they would go that far when they could have just answered his question. Inside the pink-lit motel room, Hyan slaps the tattooed leader repeatedly, panicking and shouting, "He's coming! Hurry, hurry, hurry!" Close-up of the tattooed leader's hand as he grabs the doorknob, preparing to make his escape. Looking down in regret, the leader holds onto the door handle and thinks back to his past, recalling his promising prospects at the Youth MMA National Team Trials as a favorite to win. As Ryu Kong-min stands behind him in the room where the other delinquents lie defeated, the leader laments that a massive cash prize and glorious honor. With a tight, vein-popping grip on the door handle, he realizes everything he once dreamed of was right within his grasp. He looks back at Ryu Kong-min with intense hatred, reflecting on how he lost it all, thinking, if only I hadn't crushed my opponent's skull. Ryu Kong-min stands silently under the pink lights, staring back with a calm, dark expression. The leader gets into an MMA stance, cracking his knuckles and getting increasingly worked up as he declares, "That's why I'm so excited right now. It's been so long since I fought someone strong." An action effect highlights Ryu Kong-min's face as the leader screams his name, "Ryu Kong-min!" With a wild, wide-eyed grin, the leader lunges forward at Ryu Kong-min, roaring, "Let's fight until you're crushed!" In the neighboring room, a nervous boy sweating in bed mutters, The noise next door is really intense. It's noisy." Shocked by a sudden movement beneath him, the boy blushes and stammers, "What? I mean next door?" As a girl under him giggles, I thought you meant..." The girl looks up at him with flushed cheeks, placing a hand on his chest and asking teasingly, "Are you just gonna sit there and listen?" Blushing furiously, the boy grins with wide eyes and exclaims, "Noise complaints are best settled with matching noise." He prepares himself, saying, "All right, starting now, we will make some noise so intense the walls shake," when suddenly an explosive crash shatters the wall behind them. Standing amidst the dust and shattered debris of the brick wall, the boy points a trembling thumb backward with wide, terrified eyes, muttering, "Ah," as a title reads, Step 4. On the floor among the rubble, the tattooed leader lies completely defeated and twitching, with a title below reading, "Eliminating the Leader." Dusting off his shoulder as he stands in front of the massive hole in the wall, Ryu Kang-min sighs. Substandard construction really is a serious issue these days. As a caption below reads, "Eliminate the leader to make the group lose control." Turning his head slightly, Ryu Kang-min looks toward Hayan, who is leaning against the door, whimpering in terror, as a caption below reads, "The sole reason for going through these tedious steps." Hayan desperately shakes the broken doorknob, crying out in sheer frustration, "Why the hell did you break the doorknob?" A dark silhouette with glowing eyes looms over Hayan as a hand reaches for her shoulder, and Ryu Kang-min's voice coldly asks, "What are you doing?" with the caption below reading, "The Final Step." Looking down at her as she freezes in fear, Ryu Kang-min smiles and tells her, "You should push, not pull," with the caption below reading, "Mercy." Screaming in absolute terror, Hayan drops to her knees and covers her head, desperately begging, "Fuck, I'm sorry, I'll do anything, just don't hit me," with the caption reading, "When their terror peaks." Leaning in close with a terrifyingly gentle smile, Ryu Kang-min looks down at her and says, "I never actually planned on hitting you," with the caption below reading, "You offer a helping hand." Kneeling before her, Ryu Kang-min says softly, "Actually, I just have a simple favor to ask," to which Hayan asks in confusion, "A favor?" as the caption below reads, "That's how you win them over." Gently brushing her long dark hair behind her ear, Ryu Kang-min whispers, "Out of everyone here, you're the only one who can do this," with the caption below reading, "Making them obey their master." Looking deep into her wide, trembling eyes with an unsettling smile, Ryu Kang-min asks, "You'll do it, right?" To which Hayan submissively replies, "Yeah," with the caption below reading, "Like a slave." Looking down, Ryu Kang-min smiles coldly as he begins to ask her, "About that returning student you mentioned?" Under the dark night sky, the silhouette of a rundown building is shown as Ryu Kang-min asks, "What kind of guy is he?" A mobile phone screen displays a cryptocurrency trading account showing a balance of 1,523,666 as a voiceover says, "Whoa, look at those coins piling up. I knew those freaks would open their wallets for this." A piece of fresh raw meat dipped in soy sauce is lifted with chopsticks as the speaker notes that single video already brought in more than last year's total revenue, and thanks to that, we get to eat stuff like this. Sitting in a plush leather chair in front of a lavish sashimi platter, a middle-aged boss in a suit smiles and says, "Whether it's sashimi or people, fresh is always best." A bald subordinate sitting opposite him bows respectfully and says, "You're absolutely right, boss. Just look at that glossy skin." Looking down at the massive spread of food, the subordinates agree, saying, "It looks absolutely delicious." Staring at his phone with a smug grin, the boss notes, "Downloads are spiking so fast it's practically crashing the site." On the phone screen, a video titled Camera Test 17.mp4 is shown with a play button, displaying a bedroom scene with a download cost of 0.0003 BTC, as the boss exclaims, "This video." Salivating as he shoves a piece of raw fish into his mouth, the boss laughs, "What a world we live in, paying money to watch some guy strip naked and put on a show?" A close-up of a large red fish head on the food platter is displayed, as the boss continues, "Well, thanks to that video." Raising his chopsticks high in triumph, the boss laughs maniacally, shouting, "We're making a fortune in this basement. It's nothing short of a masterpiece." The boss continues talking as he uses his chopsticks, saying, "As for this office, forget the cops." While the boss boasts even the director of the FBI couldn't find, a sudden knocking sound echoes from the metal door behind them. The knock sounds again as the subordinates look over their shoulders in confusion, and the boss finishes his sentence, saying, "This place." Sitting calmly at the table, the boss commands, "Go open the door," to which his bald subordinate replies, "Yes, boss." Opening the heavy metal door with a slow creak, the bald subordinate looks out and asks gruffly, "Who is it?" The person standing at the door is a blonde boy in a black leather jacket with a cartoon rabbit holding 2 pistols printed on the back, who says coldly, "The guys who leaked the video." Looking up with a dark, hollow expression, the blonde boy asks menacingly, "This is the place, right?"
The boss looks over at the door in annoyance, muttering, "What's with the blonde punk? He definitely doesn't look like a cop."
The blonde boy is quickly surrounded by 4 massive tattooed subordinates who tower over him and demand, "Who do you run with?" Looking down at him menacingly, they press, "The Singil gang? The Hooksyak gang?" The blonde boy reaches inside his leather jacket and calmly commands, "The video, take it down."
The massive thug looks down at the blonde boy with a cocky grin, saying, "This little shit's got some balls. Why don't you unzip your pants instead?" Lifting his heavily tattooed arm, another thug lunges forward and roars, "Because you're about to piss yourself." Behind him, 2 other subordinates snicker and mock, "This place is gonna reek of piss. It's hard to get that smell out, so go easy on him." Ha! With a sudden explosive crack, a projectile streaks through the room, grazing the face of one of the laughing subordinates as blood splatters across his cheek. The thug covers his bleeding ear, trembling violently as his colleague looks at him in utter disbelief. "Huh? My?" Holding his bloody side of the head, the injured delinquent drops to his knees on the concrete floor, screaming in agony, "My ear! I can't hear! Fuck!" Sweat dripping down his bald head, another subordinate looks down in shock and thinks, "Was that bang just now?" Suddenly, the cold barrel of a pistol is pressed firmly against his temple. With a loud bang, the blonde boy shoots the bald subordinate, sending him flying backward through the air. The remaining 2 thugs stand frozen in terror, looking down at their fallen comrades and the blood pooling on the floor as a tense silence fills the basement. The black-haired delinquent sweats profusely, stammering, "A gun?" A close-up of the blonde boy's hand holding the smoking semi-automatic pistol, as the text reads, "It's a gun!" With blood splattered across his face, the blonde boy wipes his mouth and calmly demands, "Take down the video." The boss in the gray suit jumps up from his seat at the dinner table, knocking back his glass as he exclaims in disbelief, "Wait, no, that wasn't a real gunshot. What the fuck?" Refusing to back down, the final large tattooed thug rushes the blonde boy from behind, wrapping his massive arm around his neck and roaring, "Give it back, you bastard!" Without flinching, the blonde boy raises his gun over his shoulder and fires a shot directly into the thug's forehead. As the delinquent collapses to the ground, the blonde boy turns his head slightly and repeats his cold command, "Take it down." The black-haired thug stumbles backward in a panic, desperately trying to convince himself it's just a high-powered BB gun. It's still just a toy. Sweating profusely, he looks to his companion and shouts, "There's no reason to be scared," to which his partner frantically responds, "Yeah." A bird's-eye view shows the 2 remaining thugs charging at the lone blonde boy standing in the middle of the blood-splattered room, screaming, "Get him!" The cartoon rabbit printed on the back of the blonde boy's black leather jacket is shown, holding 2 pistols with a fierce, menacing grin. In a flash, the blonde boy shoots both thugs simultaneously, the explosive impact blowing holes right through their chests and leaving them lifeless. A close-up of the scene shows the brass shell casings and steel BBs scattered on the bloodied floor, rolling past a barefoot thug. Standing amidst the carnage, the blonde boy looks down silently at the bodies of the 5 defeated subordinates scattered around him. At the electronic keypad of a large steel safe, 5 digits glow green as a voice mutters, "How is that even possible?" The boss frantically stuffs bundles of cash into a large black bag, trembling with fear as he thinks, what kind of toy gun shatters a head? Sweat pouring down his face, the boss hesitates, wondering, should I call the police? Damn it, I need to grab this first. The cold barrel of the pistol is pressed against the back of his head as the blonde boy stands behind him, repeating with chilling calm, "Take down the video." Looking down at the bloodstained floor, the blonde boy threatens, "Unless you want to end up like those pigs." Terrified and cornered, the boss looks back with a submissive expression, stammering, "I just have to delete it, right?" The blonde boy points his gun at a hard drive docking station on the blood-spattered desk, saying, "Just pull the hard drive out of the reader. Do whatever you want with it. Smash it or keep it." Kneeling on the floor, the boss raises his hands in defense and asks, "But why are you going this far? Did the victim hire you?" Looking back coldly, his cheek smeared with blood, the blonde boy asks, "What are you talking about?" He looks down at a smartphone lying on the table next to scattered pieces of food and bloodstains as he thinks, the person in that video. A screenshot of the video titled Camera Test 17.mp4 is shown, displaying the blonde boy himself looking away with a somber expression. The blonde boy's voiceover concludes, "Is me." Staring up at the gun barrel, the boss's eyes widen in realization as he mutters, "It's small, but I can see it." Gritting his teeth in pure rage, the blonde boy aims his gun directly at the boss and snarls, "I said it's small, asshole." A sudden gunshot echoes, splattering fresh blood across the sashimi platter and the raw fish head on the table. In a quiet room, a set of fine tools, tweezers, and a Swiss Army knife lie on a wooden desk beneath a speech bubble that reads, "Jonghyun-soo."
Under the warm glow of a desk lamp, a young man with dark, messy hair is meticulously assembling a large sniper rifle, murmuring, using a gun in South Korea where firearms are illegal. The young man tightens a component on the rifle's barrel, thinking quite bold. As he mounts a high-powered scope onto the weapon with a sharp click, he continues, but it's just a modified toy. Looking at his extensive wall display of handguns, shotguns, and rifles, he thinks, a fake. Placing his finger gently on the trigger, he adjusts the mechanism, whispering, but everything I have. Peering directly through the scope of the sniper rifle, his gaze cold and sharp, he finishes his thought, is real. Sitting in a crouched position in a school playground, the dark-haired young man looks up with a bored, empty gaze and mutters, cigarette. Standing before him, a severely beaten delinquent with a black eye, bandages, and bruises over his face hurriedly pulls out a pack of cigarettes and stammers, cigarette. With a cigarette dangling from his lips, the dark-haired young man casually raises a finger and commands, light. A heavily tattooed thug with bandages on his face immediately steps forward, holding out a lit lighter with both hands, saying submissively, light. As the dark-haired youth sits surrounded by kneeling delinquents in the middle of the playground, one thug mutters, ashtray, followed by another calling, ashtray, while the youth muses, my lost childhood innocence, prompting a confused, huh, from the group. Looking directly at her companion, a stunning young woman with long black hair, wearing a white button-up shirt and gray skirt, asks, but why did you ask us to meet up? Taking a drag from his cigarette, the dark-haired young man smiles calmly and replies, we should finish our conversation from yesterday. A flashback bubble reveals a serious conversation from the day before. You have another friend you hang out with, right? The returning student in the next class who doesn't show up? Holding his cigarette in his hand, the dark-haired boy looks off to the side with a puzzled expression, wondering, what's with everyone? Looking at his group of friends who are all battered, bruised, and covered in bandages, he asks in confusion, why is the mood like this? A close-up shows the beautiful black-haired girl looking down in a tense, silent contemplation. Snapping his cigarette completely in half with a dark and serious gaze, the young man mutters, did something bad happen? The scene transitions to the dark, blood-soaked basement where the blonde boy stands over the bodies of the gang members. As the narration continues, with that friend, a close-up shows the blood-splattered face of the blonde boy looking on with a cold, dead expression. Multiple targets spark and spin at a shooting range as the announcement reads, firing complete. Leaning over the shooting counter, a beautiful black-haired girl in a school uniform carefully clears her handgun, reciting, bolt back and forward, dry fire, clear. Letting out a heavy sigh, she lowers her gun, clearly unsatisfied with her performance. Adjusting her safety glasses, she looks down at the pistol in frustration, complaining, why is the zeroing so terrible? I want to strip this gun and throw it in the washing machine. Turning to the group of boys standing behind her, she sighs, did you serve in the military? This is so annoying. The prize shelf displays a muscular elephant plushie as she thinks to herself, first place prize. I really want that Kachuri Kochu plushie. Standing beside her, the blonde boy grabs a handgun and cocks it with a sharp click, asking, you want that? An information profile displays, hold on, Jong Hyun-soo, 20 years old, Anil High School, first year, note, returning student. Jong Hyun-soo takes a perfect professional shooting stance as the girl remarks in awe, oh, look at that stance, to which he casually lies, really, it's actually my first time shooting. With a loud bang, Hyun-soo fires a shot directly into the center of the target. Leaning in close with wide, excited eyes, the girl asks, no way, are you actually going to win the plushie? Hyun-soo fires a rapid succession of perfect shots, completely knocking down the remaining targets as the bystanders gasp, whoa! The crowd of boys looks on in utter disbelief, exclaiming, wow, that's insane! The military is looking for talent like you, while another mutters, our national defense is in good hands. Hyun-soo holds up the ridiculous muscular elephant plushie and hands it to her with a smile, saying, here, take it, as the text exclaims, awesome, a perfect score. Grabbing his arm and holding onto him tightly, the girl beams and says, thanks, Oppa. Smiling warmly with a slight blush, she leans in closer and whispers, I'll definitely make it up to you next time. Hyun-soo looks back at her, momentarily caught off guard by her close proximity. In the middle of the shooting gallery, the girl happily spins the plushie around, shouting, elephant spin, while Hyun-soo warns, careful, the trunk might fall off, and another boy remarks, the trunk is very precious to an elephant. Looking down at the gun in his hand, Hyun-soo overhears her giggling, my reward, and wonders to himself, what does that mean? Hyun-soo looks away, trying to hide his sudden embarrassment. His face turning bright red, he nervously rubs the back of his neck and stammers, what's the big deal about being good at shooting? Now dressed in a cool black leather jacket, the black-haired girl looks up with an annoyed pout, muttering, so annoying. Walking down a busy city street, she complains to herself, why on earth is Ryu Kang-min interested in a guy like that? I wanted to forget about him forever. Ryu Kang-min suddenly appears over her shoulder, asking, what are you mumbling about to yourself? As she turns around in surprise. Kang-min smiles smugly and asks, are you schizophrenic? To which she snaps back, what are you talking about? Standing face to face, she looks at him in shock, realizing they are wearing identical black leather jackets over gray hoodies. Why are you dressed so similarly to me? She demands, while he chuckles, wow, what a coincidence. Is this what they call a similar look? Standing near a subway station exit, she crosses her arms and huffs, but why did you ask to meet me alone? On the weekend, no less. A close-up of Kang-min shows him remaining silent, his expression unreadable. She stares at him intensely, asking, you remember what you said at the room cafe, right? A flashback shows Kang-min leaning in close and gently cradling her face, whispering, that you do me a simple favor. Back in the present, Kang-min grins and holds up his phone, showing an Instagram food page, and says, I heard this neighborhood is the hottest spot in Seoul. He looks at her with a bright, teasing smile and says, for a country bumpkin from Daejeon, show me around Seoul, prompting her to mutter in disbelief, around Seoul? A close-up highlights her stylish outfit as her leather jacket hangs open over a tight white top. Staring at him with a dark, plotting grin, she thinks to herself, give me a break. Reflecting on his past actions, she thinks, he beat those guys to a pulp and acted all cool, so I was scared he'd make me do something dangerous. While Kang-min looks around and marvels, wow, Seoul really is different. Even the pigeons look sophisticated. She watches him walk ahead, her gaze softening as she realizes, but Ryu Kang-min. Turning back to her with an endearing smile, he asks, should we eat first? As her internal thoughts conclude, he likes me. The two stroll down the sidewalk together as Kang-min asks, is there anything you want to eat? Kang-min pulls out his phone to check a map, saying, actually, my algorithm recommended this amazing place. The perspective shifts to a phone screen taking a candid photo of the two of them standing close together on the street. From behind a concrete pillar, a mysterious figure in a dark hoodie secretly takes photos of them on his phone, watching them in silence. Looking around the beautifully decorated, traditional restaurant room, the girl thinks to herself, I get that this place is famous, but staring down at the massive, overwhelming feast spread across the table, she asks, an 80-dish table? Are we here to live like royalty? Leaning her face on her hand with a bored sigh, she tells her companion, you've never been on a date with a girl, have you? Your taste in restaurants is the absolute worst. When he meekly responds with a soft sorry, her eyes widen in surprise as she glances back at him. Looking down with a lonely and melancholic expression, the dark-haired young man admits, to be honest, I've never really had a proper friend before. So he looks at the plate of delicious boiled pork slices, continuing, I didn't really know what we should eat. Taking a bite of the food, her face instantly lights up as she happily says, this is insanely good, while he smiles warmly and asks, right? Pointing to one of the dishes, he casually adds, especially this fried iguana. It's exquisite, prompting a shocked and confused, fried what? From her. A phone camera clicks as it captures a close-up, intimate photo of him gently wiping her mouth with a napkin, whispering, you've got something on your mouth. The scene transitions to the sunny, peaceful interior of the Alpaca Cafe, decorated with lush green plants and bamboo partitions. Suddenly, a fluffy gray alpaca pops its head up and lets out a bizarre, loud screeching sound. While she feeds a brown alpaca and coos, they're so gentle, another white alpaca spits a massive stream of saliva directly into his face. Wiping his face in utter disbelief, the boy yells, did you see the attitude on this crazy alpaca? While the alpaca lets out an innocent cue, and a phone secretly records them. A hilarious candid photo on a smartphone captures the white alpaca chewing on the boy's dark hair as he screams in terror while she laughs next to him. The two of them arrive at a modern, multi-story building featuring a large banner advertising an art collaboration exhibition. Standing side by side, they gaze at an artwork in deep contemplation as he murmurs, as expected, modern art is so profound. The title of the piece? They stare in silence at a simple white urinal mounted on the wall, with the title above it reading, Excrement, Not Art? Standing side by side in front of the urinal, he bends down to inspect it closely and asks, did you feel it too? The rush of emotion, like a flushing toilet, leaving her completely speechless. A photo taken from behind reveals they are actually at the 2026 Bathroom Products Expo, rather than an actual art gallery. Standing in front of a luxury boutique, the stylish girl poses elegantly as a camera shutter clicks. Holding up his phone to take yet another picture, the boy groans. How long do I have to keep taking photos? To which she cheerfully replies, until I'm satisfied. Standing under the streetlights at night, he holds up his phone and says, "It says your phone storage is full?" Prompting a shocked, "What? My phone has 10,024 terabytes of storage, though," from her. Looking at his phone screen, she asks, "Why did you take so many?" And he proudly smiles, replying, "Because my looks are a national treasure that must be preserved for history." Strolling down a peaceful park path under the night sky, he says, "Thanks to you, I had a great time seeing Seoul." And she softly smiles, replying, "Well, I'm glad to hear that." Turning to her with a warm smile, he says, "It's a bit of a shame to part ways like this," prompting her to look back in curiosity. He gestured toward a brightly lit outdoor carnival booth and asks, "How about one last game of shooting?" She stares back at him under the soft evening lights, her expression gentle and quiet. A close-up shows the circular target stand at the shooting booth, waiting to be hit. She suddenly recalls a memory of her friend, the blonde boy Jong Hyun-soo, taking a flawless shooting stance at a gun range. Back in the present, she looks at the dark-haired boy with a serious and analytical gaze as they stand side by side. The bald booth owner proudly holds up a toy rifle and explains, "Hit just 1 out of 10 shots and you'll get a cute plushie," to which the boy confidently remarks, "Just 1? That's way too easy." The owner grins widely, telling him it's the perfect gift for your girlfriend, while the text warns, "Sorry, but it won't be that easy." Taking a steady aim with the wooden rifle, the boy prepares to shoot as the text reveals, because that gun has its zeroing completely messed up. A loud shot rings out as the cork bullet flies in a wild, ridiculous curve, with the narration noting, even if someone from the special forces came, they wouldn't be able to hit a single shot. Watching him struggle, she playfully teases, "You look like you won't even hit one," which prompts him to look back with a confident smirk and ask, "Want to make a bet?" Looking at the display shelves filled with teddy bears, he says, "If I hit every shot from now on and win a plushie as a prize." He focuses intensely, aiming down the rifle's barrel as he continues, "You have to do me one more favor," making her ask in surprise, "Again?" The booth owner scoffs to himself, thinking it's useless, only to be interrupted by a rapid succession of perfect hits that knock down target after target. The booth owner breaks into a cold sweat, staring in absolute disbelief as his mouth hangs wide open. Looking at the completely cleared shooting range shelves, the owner gasps in sheer shock. He hit every single one? Holding the toy rifle casually over his shoulder, the boy turns to the girl and asks, "Want to try? It's my first time trying cork shooting," while the owner internally screams, "Whoa, is he some kind of top-tier assassin?" As they prepare for her turn, he steps in close and says, "Hold it tight against your shoulder," prompting her to nervously ask, "Like this?" as a camera secretly snaps a photo. A close-up photo on the phone screen shows him leaning in from behind to adjust her stance, softly saying, "Close, like this," while she blushes and replies, "I totally get it now." Holding up a bizarre pink blobfish plushie by its head, the girl looks at it in disgust and mutters, "It's so ugly." Bouncing the squishy plushie up and down as she walks, she complains, "I can't believe this is the grand prize. It's uselessly springy." Checking her phone on her way home, she reflects to herself, "Ryu Kong-min, I wondered what he was going to ask for this time." Looking at her screen, her eyes widen as she thinks, "But asking me to post a photo of us on social media? Showing their cute selfie together with the blobfish plushie on her Instagram page?" Riding the elevator up to her floor, she thinks, using sightseeing in Seoul as an excuse, his tricks are so obvious. She recalls all the sweet moments from their day, him wiping her face, taking photos of her, and smiling warmly on social media, wondering, did he think that would make me happy? Holding the squishy blobfish plushie tightly over her face to hide her bright red blush, she sighs to herself, "Seriously?" Clutching the squishy plushie over her face to hide her deep blush, Hyun mutters in frustration, "So annoying." A hand scrolls down on a smartphone, viewing an Instagram post with a photo of the young man gently wiping her mouth during their restaurant date. Swiping down the social media page, the user views another uploaded photo showing the couple standing close together inside the art gallery. Scrolling further down the feed, another intimate photo appears, capturing the dark-haired young man wrapping his arm around her shoulder. As the elevator chime announces their arrival at the 5th floor, she pauses her scrolling right on their cute selfie together with the blobfish plushie. The elevator doors slide open as the automated voice announces, "Doors opening." Stepping forward, Hyun is startled to find a blonde-haired young man standing right in front of the doors, glaring at her with a menacing expression. Grabbing her chin firmly, the blonde-haired man sneers, "It's dangerous to wander around so late. You should come home early." When she struggles against his grip and asks what he is doing there, he suddenly wraps his hand tightly around her neck with a rough grasp. He forces his way inside, dragging her into the dark room while muttering, "Your studio apartment, Hyun, brings back memories." Holding her throat tightly as she gasps for air, he looks back at her with a chilling gaze and asks, "It's my first time here since that day, right?" In a bright flashback, a group of young friends sit in a circle on the floor of a studio apartment, drinking alcohol and cheering, "Hey, cheers, cheers!" Laughing and chatting together, the group raises their shot glasses filled with soju for another lively toast. One of the guys happily drinks his shot and remarks, "Why does the alcohol taste like sugar water today? I could practically eat rice with this." Sitting nearby, Hyun looks at them with a sigh and says, "Cut the crap and drink in moderation. If you throw up in my place, you're dead." As the party grows louder with chants of "drink, drink," the blonde-haired guy turns to her and reassuringly says, "Don't worry, Hyun, I'll look after everyone." Smiling warmly, she looks back at him and asks, "Is it because you're an adult? You're so reliable, haha." Pleased by her praise, the young man smiles brightly and raises his cup, replying, "Of course, just trust me." A single, half-empty green bottle of soju stands silently on the floor as the party winds down. Under the dim lights of the quiet room, the group of male friends lies completely passed out on the floor after drinking heavily. Hyun lies fast asleep on her side on the mattress, completely unconscious from the alcohol. The perspective shifts as the blonde-haired young man quietly crawls onto the bed beside her sleeping form. Leaning in close to her ear, he whispers, "Are you asleep?" while she remains completely unresponsive. He looms directly over her, his dark shadow casting down on her body as she sleeps peacefully. Breathing heavily with a tense, dark look on his face, he whispers to himself, "You're asleep, right? Whew, whew." Suddenly, a loud, terrified scream rings out from the dark apartment building into the night sky. Back in the present, Hyun lies on the floor, coughing and gasping for air as the blonde-haired man stands over her, saying, "Because you reported me, my life was ruined." With a dark shadow cast over his eyes, he continues bitterly, "I got expelled from school, and my family abandoned me." Crouching on the floor, she coughs painfully. She listens as he blames her entirely, prompting her to weakly ask, "All because of you, Hyun? How is that my fault?" Staring up at him with cold, defiant eyes, Hyun spits out, "You sex offender bastard." Trembling with absolute rage at her words, he stammers in shock, "You did what? You..." His face contorts with fury as he screams at her, "You're the one who seduced me first." He angrily recalls her past actions, shouting that she touched him like it was nothing, threw herself at him while saying she'd pay him back, called him Oppa constantly, and kept saying how reliable he was. Holding up his phone, he points down at her and yells, "You're the one who liked me first and led me on like a little fox." A close-up of Hyun's eye reveals her sheer disgust and shock as she mutters, "What are you even..." He flashes his phone screen showing her recent Instagram post, demanding, "Is that why you went out of your way to go shooting? The one thing we did together?" Clenching her fist tightly as she trembles with rage, Hyun growls, "I've listened to enough of this." Delivering a fierce, powerful slap across his face, she screams, "Are you a total psycho?" As she yells that he is delusional and needs to check into a psych ward, multiple sudden gunshots ring out, blasting holes straight through her blobfish plushie. Staring with a crazed, unhinged look in his eyes, he whispers, "Ever since that day, I've been preparing for the moment we'd meet again." He points a real handgun directly at her face as she freezes in absolute terror, boasting, "I filmed myself and practiced all sorts of things." He violently grabs her hair and pulls her head down as she groans in pain, whispering, "Now that I can finally show you." Drooling with a terrifying, wild grin, his eyes bulge as he mutters, "I'm shaking with excitement." Hyun screams in terror as the crazed young man laughs maniacally, holding his weapon close. Suddenly, a hand reaches in from behind and firmly clamps a chloroform cloth over the blonde-haired man's mouth. As the man's eyes widen in shock, a voice from the shadows remarks, "I didn't expect you to show up so soon." A mysterious figure with messy dark hair smiles in the dim light, whispering, "Hiring that paparazzi was totally worth it." In a dark back alley, a group of men wearing black balaclavas and hoodies gather as one of them asks, "What about the photos?" The masked men hold up their smartphones, displaying the candid photos they secretly took of Kangmin and Hyun on the street, confirming, "The ones I took secretly from a distance, I uploaded them all." Standing nearby, a dark-haired young man sighs deeply and mutters in frustration, "Ryu Kangmin, you bastard! Beating me up at the Room Cafe wasn't enough. Now you're making me run errands like this? Take photos that make you look like a couple and post them on social media. I did it perfectly, so he won't beat me again, right?" I don't get it, though. It doesn't seem like he even likes Choi Hae-in. Why is he doing this?
Jang Hyun-soo, I was having trouble finding your whereabouts.
But I can't believe such a childish decoy actually worked. Were you really that desperate? Are you Hae-yeon's boyfriend? What, did you think I was her girlfriend? Ryu Kangmin stands calmly as Jang Hyun-soo stealthily reaches for a handgun tucked behind his back. I see. With a sudden lightning-fast draw, Jang Hyun-soo fires his gun directly at Ryu Kangmin. Wow, without even a warning? You just pull the trigger? Once you're gone, Hae-yeon will be mine. Ryu Kangmin swiftly reaches forward and grabs the slide of the gun to redirect the shot. Do you want Choi Hae-yeon that badly? How about a shooting match? The winner gets her as the prize. Just so you know, my gun kills instantly with a single shot. Fuck. Who the fuck leaked my video? This angle makes me look better. Was it that phone repair bastard? No wonder he charged so little, that piece of shit. I'll put a bullet in his head. I guess you didn't know. Your video is already famous. Who are you? Who the fuck are you? It's a hot topic online too. To seduce girls, practicing and correcting your movements alone.
And recording it.
Giving yourself feedback in bed? How creepy. And seeing how you even have something this dangerous.
You are the perfect talent for creating controversy.
Ready when you are, please share the text. Answer my question. I asked who the fuck you are.
The Network. We provide provocative content to the public to generate profit.
And I am someone who recruits talent like you. With plenty of potential to cause a social scandal, your actions, Jang Hyun-soo, were highly impressive to watch. From now on, won't you join us? Do you want Choi Hae-yeon that badly? Oh, really? Then take your shot. What's wrong? Scared to pull the trigger? Bang.
A sudden shot strikes him, sending Jang Hyun-soo flying backward onto the floor with a painful scream.
God. Huh, that's weird.
Why are there rubber bullets in here? It definitely said bullet delivery. They didn't mean actual bullets? Of course they wouldn't ship real bullets. This is so embarrassing. Oops, that was too obvious. Ryu Kangmin ducks in a flash as a fast-moving bullet shatters a toy figurine on the desk behind him. Is this really a toy gun? Kids definitely shouldn't be playing with this, Ryu Kangmin says as a shattered toy robot figurine crumbles against the wall. The blonde-haired man holds his gun up, looking down with a dark expression as he sneers. Anyone can see this is the work of a professional. You didn't make this, did you? With a sudden, furious shout of "fuck you and die," the blonde man opens fire, but Kangmin swiftly dodges the bullets, calmly observing that the gun zeroing is a work of art. Frustrated by the miss, the attacker growls under his breath, while Kangmin notes that he has built up quite a notorious criminal record with that gun. Kangmin continues pointing out his opponent's background, mentioning that despite his extensive criminal record, he has managed to avoid prison time completely. A knowing smirk plays on Kangmin's face as he narrows his eyes, whispering, "Could it be?" Looking down at his opponent while raising his hand, Kangmin asks, "That some group is backing you? A group like the Network." The Network is a veiled, massive criminal organization operating stealthily throughout Korea. With its members scattered secretly across the entire country, they blend seamlessly into everyday society. They operate strictly as a decentralized point organization, which keeps individual members isolated from one another. Because of this disjointed structure, finding the ultimate truth behind the organization is next to impossible. Even so, Ryu Kangmin's eyes burn with cold determination as he resolves that he must find them. Looking over his target notes, verifying the network's existence, he is driven by a singular purpose because the main target that he is destined to eliminate is hidden deep within their ranks. Suddenly, the blonde-haired man charges forward with incredible speed, screaming, "What are you staring at?" Getting right in Kangmin's face, the attacker demands with absolute fury, "Am I a joke to you?" Kangmin recalls that during his investigation, he confirmed that this man was indeed a registered member of the network. Swinging wildly, the blonde man seethes with rage, shouting that not only did Ryu Kangmin steal his girl, but he also dared to mock and threaten him. Meanwhile, Kangmin focuses entirely on dodging the wild attacks to reach his main target. Kangmin swiftly turns his head as a sharp clicking noise echoes nearby. He quickly ducks down, but accidentally bumps into a metal dish rack, causing the plates to clatter loudly as he groans, "Ah." Seizing the opportunity, the blonde assailant fires his handgun directly at the sound. Pointing his weapon down, the blonde man smugly asks, "So, dying is like this?" Only to freeze in shock as Kangmin suddenly aims a gun right back at his face. A rapid barrage of non-lethal shots rings out, and the blonde-haired man screams in agony as he is peppered with painful rubber bullets. He groans in pain as his face is instantly covered in swelling, red welts from the impact. The sheer force of the shots sends the assailant flying backward through the air, crashing into the debris. Calmly setting down a can of cola with a click, Kangmin asks, "Are you still going to keep this up?" Taking a casual breath, he looks down coldly at the defeated man and addresses him as Mr. Criminal. The bruised assailant weakly groans, "No," while Kangmin stands at a distance, taking a sip of his drink. Slumped helplessly against the wall, the defeated man tries to justify his actions, pleading, "I'm not the bad guy here." In a painful flashback, he sits alone in the corner of a dark room, desperately staring at his phone and pleading, "Hayan, you didn't, right?" He recalls how he frantically flooded her phone with unanswered text messages, photos, and calls, begging her not to block him. Cursing to himself in the dark, he had realized with growing panic that she was completely ignoring him. Staring at an old photo of them together, he bitterly remembers how she once smiled at him and told him how cool he was. Clenching his gun tightly in his hand, he repeats her words over and over. "Shooting guns? You said it was cool." He remembers curling up on his floor in despair, surrounded by toy BB guns and boxes, practicing endlessly just to get her attention. Back in the present, he turns his back and insists, "I'm just a victim, betrayed by love." Taking another slow sip of his soda, Kangmin dryly remarks, "A victim, huh? That's a creative way to look at it." The blonde man mumbles about love as he slowly raises his weapon, while Kangmin watches him with silent disbelief. With a heavy shadow cast over his face, the delusional assailant points his gun once more and declares, "I love you." Kangmin looks at him with utter astonishment as the man frantically rants, "No, but even so, how could you? I love you with all my heart." He looks over at the unconscious Hayan lying nearby, continuously proclaiming, "I love you purely." Staring at her sleeping face, his obsession deepens as he whispers, "I love you like crazy." Tears stream down his face as he raises his gun into the air, screaming hysterically, "With everything I have, fuck, I fucking love you so much." With a chilling look in his eyes, he reaches his hand inside his leather jacket and whispers, "If I can't have you?" Suddenly, he leaps into the air wielding two handguns simultaneously, shouting, "No one can." From his point of view, he aims his twin weapons directly at the helpless, unconscious Hayan. Kangmin's eyes widen in horror as the madman yells, "Wait, since this life is ruined!" Crying and smiling maniacally, the blonde-haired lunatic points the gun at his own head, screaming, "Let's get married in the next life, you fucking bitch!" With a double click, he readies both triggers, bringing the desperate standoff to its absolute limit. Panting heavily, the blonde-haired man's eyes open wide in desperation as he holds up his twin handguns. "As expected of made-in-Korea appliances," a voice remarks as a sleek silver refrigerator with an energy efficiency label comes into view. "It's durable enough to block bullets," Kangmin notes calmly, hiding behind the bullet-riddled refrigerator door with Hayan. Soy Hayan remains quiet, her head lowered as the situation grows increasingly tense. Peeking out from behind the steel barrier, Ryu Kangmin demands to know, "Who are you?" Looking down at them, the assailant asks in disbelief, "Just to save one girl, you jumped into a hail of bullets? Why would you go that far?" The attacker stays silent for a moment, pondering the situation. Suddenly, a look of realization washes over his face as he mutters, "Wait, don't tell me." He looks at Choi Hayon again, whispering, "No way, is it?" He points toward the bedroom and stammers, "You too, don't tell me, in there." Gritting his teeth in pure agony and despair, he screams, "No way, right?" Looking back with an intense, crazed gaze, he asks, "Are you really curious?" With a sly, provocative smirk, Ryu Kangmin replies, "I'm too embarrassed to say." Lashing out in absolute fury, the blonde-haired man charges forward, screaming, "You piece of shit!" But before he can even pull the trigger, a lightning-fast shot slices through the air, shattering his handgun as he gasps, "I'll kill!" He freezes in sheer disbelief as the fragments of his shattered weapon fly right past his eyes. He utters a confused, breathy, "Huh?" as he realizes what just happened. Drops of fresh blood splatter onto the floor around his shoe as he lets out a series of painful groans. Clutching his hand in absolute agony, he screams at the top of his lungs, "Ah, my finger!" Ryu Kangmin calmly gestures for silence and whispers, "Shh, the neighbors will hear you." Looking down coldly, Kangmin warns, "If you don't shut up, I'll blow off your entire hand." The assailant trembles as he hears the terrifying words. "From now on, what's being fired is a real bullet," Kangmin finishes coldly, aiming his smoking handgun directly at the man's head. Trembling from head to toe, the defeated assailant begs desperately, "Please." Pointing the gun right between his eyes, Kangmin asks dryly, "Really?" No! The man whimpers as the finger begins to squeeze the trigger.
Scurrying away frantically on his hands and knees, the man screams, "I don't want to die!" Watching the pathetic sight, Ryu Kong-min mutters, look at him run.
Pulling his hood over his head, he calmly remarks, should have run away in the first place.
Outside, the city streets are bustling with people going about their evening.
A street promoter in a cute maid outfit winks at the passersby, holding a sign that reads, "Let's play with the maid, meow."
As she tries to grab his attention, the blonde man rushes past her, his torn jacket exposing his back. "Get lost, you cat bitch," he yells angrily, shoving the startled maid aside as he flees. Panting and crying, he mutters in frustration, just how long?"
He continues pushing through the crowds of pedestrians, desperately trying to put distance between himself and his pursuer.
Looking back in horror, he gasps, "How long are you going to chase me?" as he spots Ryu Kang-min walking calmly right behind him. Stumbling forward blindly, he bumps into a passerby, crying out in confusion, Standing in the middle of a massive city intersection, he screams at the sky, "What did I do wrong?" Turning to the crowded street, he rants, "If anything, I'm a victim who was used by a woman. So why are you taking it out on me?" he shrieks, tears streaming down his face. Ryu Kong-min looks down at his phone, dryly noting, "You've got plenty of energy, don't you?" Looking up at a towering electronic billboard on a skyscraper, Kong-min remarks, "Thanks to that, we got here faster than expected." Pressing a button on his phone to connect to the outdoor LED display, he asks, "Shall we get started?" The blonde man runs across the crosswalk, his attention drawn to the giant screen above him. Suddenly, the massive digital billboard lights up with a video of him practicing poses in bed, with the text, "Is this not the right pose?" The crowd begins to point and gossip, with people whispering, "What's up with that plucked chicken? A urology clinic ad?" "It's way too small," a bystander giggles, pointing out the embarrassing video on display. Shaking in pure humiliation, the blonde man looks around, stuttering, "You?" Clutching his crotch in desperation, he runs through the street screaming, "No, it's not, you bastards! It's not small!" Staring back at the crowd in absolute mortification, he pathetically defends himself, crying, "I was just having an off day." Looking up with wide, sweating eyes, the blonde man mutters in shock, "Don't tell me, that video," while Kangman looks down at him with a sly smile. Clutching his phone in front of him, the blonde man looks up in disbelief and asks, "Did you do this?" The pedestrian light flashes rapidly as the countdown timer ticks down to its final 2 seconds. With a soft click, the pedestrian light switches to a solid red hand, signaling for pedestrians to stop. Sprinting forward in a mad panic, the blonde man screams at the top of his lungs, "Take the video down!" Suddenly, the blonde man is violently struck with a loud gasp of as glass shatters everywhere. Hit by a speeding truck, the man's body is sent spinning violently through the air across the crosswalk. The surrounding crowd of pedestrians freeze in sheer horror, their faces twisted in absolute shock as they witness the sudden accident. On the massive electronic billboard, the embarrassing video of the blonde man continues to play, showing him asking in confusion, What's going on? Why did he suddenly?" As onlookers whisper in shock, asking if he just died, the man's lifeless body lies on the pavement in front of the truck with a cracked windshield. Amidst the chaotic screams of "Ah!" and people frantically asking, "Is he dead?" Kangmin calmly turns his back on the scene. Glancing back over his shoulder, Kangmin quietly mutters to himself, "I didn't plan for this kind of ending." With a cold, mysterious purple glow in his eyes, he sighs, "Well." Looking down from above at the crowd calling for an ambulance and screaming to call 911, Kangmin coldly concludes, "I guess he got what he deserved." Back at school, a student exclaims in surprise, "That bastard Jong Hyun-soo! Apparently he got hit by a truck." Sitting nearby, another tattooed student looking at his phone agrees, "Yeah, I saw, it's blowing up on social media." Showing his phone screen to his classmates, he points out that the man has completely lost his mind, calling him the most talked about guy in the country right now. One of the boys jokingly comments, "Our school finally produced a celebrity," while another picks his nose and remarks about the absurd situation. Overhearing them, the female student sitting in front of them retorts over her shoulder, "It's the other way around, dumbass." Resting her chin on her hand, she complains to herself, "Why did he have to get hit by a car on the exact day he came to my place? It's so annoying and creepy." Letting out a heavy sigh, she rubs her temples, wondering why her head hurts so much and why her temples are throbbing. Trying to piece together her memories, she thinks, "I can't remember anything from yesterday, like I blacked out. I remember that bastard showing up." She vividly recalls the sheer terror of that moment, remembering how she was screaming in desperation. She vaguely remembers a hooded figure standing in her dark apartment, dryly commenting, "Korean appliances really are the best." From the shadows, a mysterious silhouetted man approaches, asking, "Is she awake already?" The suited man speaks calmly, telling her, "Your house is a mess, but you don't need to worry."
Adjusting his glasses as they reflect a sharp light, he adds, "I'm cleaning it up right now," as masked cleaners work diligently behind him. Looking down with a confident smirk, he reassures her, saying, "Of course." Shaking off her hazy memories, she stays quiet as she raises a hand to her chin. Looking up thoughtfully, she mutters to herself, "This feels weird." Later that night, Kang Min walks down a quiet, dimly lit alleyway, carrying a plastic bag of groceries. Sighing in deep frustration, he grumbles, "How is there not a single convenience store that'll sell me cigarettes?" Making a sour, irritated face, he complains about his current age. "Why does my character setting have to be 17? I should have begged them to make me a 24-year-old who finished his military service." Trudging along wearily, he laments, "Sigh, forced to quit smoking for 3 years, and I even have to go to the military again." Suddenly, a polite voice calls out, "Nice to meet you," causing him to stop and turn in surprise with a confused, "Hmm?" Standing under the street lamp is the suited man with glowing glasses who addresses him directly, Mr. Ryu Kang Min. Kang Min dryly remarks, "Wow, a sketchy guy approaching a high schooler?" To which the suited man politely responds, "I apologize if I made you uncomfortable." Adjusting his tie, the suited man brings up the main reason for his visit, the billboard hacking incident downtown last night. Smiling politely, the man extends his hand to offer a sleek black card, complimenting him. It was highly impressive. Holding up the card featuring the mysterious geometric symbol, the man begins, "We are an organization." As Kang Min stares intently at the card, the suited man finishes his sentence, introducing them as the organization called the Network. Looking at the emblem, a faint, knowing smirk appears on Kang Min's face as he realizes his plan worked. Kang Min knew that when an incident involving one of their registered members occurred, and when that incident grew to become a major public issue splashed all over social media, the secret organization would have no choice but to take a keen interest in him, with the recruiter stating, "We are looking for talent who can create issues." Smiling confidently, Kang Min jokes, "Well, I do have a trendy sense of style," as he thinks to himself, this is where it begins. He plans to infiltrate their ranks, starting out as a low-level member, and systematically working his way up from the very bottom of their hierarchy. He intends to trace the connections and rise through the ranks of the secretive web. He turns away slightly, scheming to himself. That would be the standard method, but Ryu Kang Min analyzes the structure of their organization, explaining, in a point organization, the role of a scouter, by design, must be held by someone in the upper ranks. Ryu Kang Min notes, which means they likely communicate directly with the boss or are at least close to them, prompting the suited recruiter to ask, "What are you talking about all of a sudden?" With a stern look, Ryu Kang Min commands, "Take me." Pointing a handgun concealed in a plastic shopping bag directly at the recruiter, Ryu Kang Min cold-bloodedly finishes, "To your boss." In a flashback, an attractive blonde woman wearing a black lace nightgown elegantly trims flowers in a dimly lit room. Snapping the scissors around a red flower, she says, "Hibiscus." Staring with sharp, beautiful blue eyes, she explains, "It's known as the Hawaiian hibiscus." As red flower petals drift around her face in the breeze, she continues, "Its meaning is..." Sitting on the windowsill next to a decorated suitcase, Ryu Kang Min interrupts with a smirk, "A luscious ass." Looking exasperated, she retorts, "There is no such meaning." To which Ryu Kang Min cheekily responds, "What? ChatGPT told me that." Narrowing her eyes at him, she says, "More importantly..." She suddenly hurls her gardening shears across the room with lethal speed and accuracy. As the shears fly through the air, she remarks, "Breaking into a woman's house? You have a twisted hobby." Catching the spinning blades effortlessly with his passport, Ryu Kang Min smiles and addresses her as, "Spade A, you startled me." Sitting on the couch, she asks, "Isn't it about time for you to leave for Korea?" While Ryu Kang Min replies, "Pigeons have taken over the runway. Can I take a nap here before I go?" Standing close behind her, Ryu Kang Min teases, "Just so you know, I can't sleep without a lap pillow." And she dryly answers, "How unfortunate for you." Turning back to look at him with a piercing gaze, she asks, "Jokes aside, what's the real reason you're here?" On the table lies an elegant arrangement of cut flowers and the gardening scissors. Ryu Kang Min raises his passport, asking, "Every time a contract killer leaves for a mission, they get a new identification, right?" Tossing the passport onto the table, he points out, "But on the passport I got this time." The passport details are displayed, showing his photo and real name. My real name was on it. Leaning close to her, Ryu Kang Min questions, "Even my date of birth is real. What are you up to?" While she calmly replies, "It's consideration, not a scheme." A large, exotic butterfly lands on a branch of yellow orchids as she explains, "Once you complete this assignment, you will no longer be Spade A." From an overhead perspective, the butterfly flutters over the living room as she tells him, "But as Ryu Kong-min, you will live a free life." Ryu Kong-min looks down with a solemn hard expression, muttering, "Freedom, that's what makes the least sense." Surrounded by beautiful roses and flowers, he recalls his bloody past. "Even when I killed this country's Supreme Council member or wiped out a wealthy American family, the reward was always money." Looking at a red rose, Ryu Kong-min contemplates, so why is the price of just one Korean citizen's life freedom? With the rose stem held in his mouth, Ryu Kong-min speaks as she tells him, "That was the decision of the High Command. There's no point in us debating it," prompting him to ask, "What? I thought you'd know." Opening a small wooden desk drawer, she answers, "I can only share fully verified information." She pulls out a printed document, saying, "This just arrived by fax, so I was going to give it to you once you reached Korea." Ryu Kong-min looks at the document with a shocked and tense expression, whispering, "This is..." She reveals the document containing a complex geometric pattern. Among the main target has created an organization. The dossier for the organization network shows map locations and member profiles. She explains it operates as a highly meticulous point organization, so we've only secured the names of a very few members. Displaying photos of various members, she instructs, "Your first objective is to make contact with one of them." Examining the student profiles on the document, Ryu Kang-min scoffs, "They're all students? Are they asking me to play house?" While she sternly advises, "Don't jump to conclusions." Holding up a vibrant red rose, she uses a metaphor. Just as a beautiful flower blooming above ground has roots running deep into the dark earth. Bringing the rose to her lips, she warns, "His organization might also be rooted deep in the shadows." Flashing back to the present moment in the alleyway, Ryu Kong-min demands, "Take me there." Aiming the plastic-wrapped gun at the suited recruiter's chest, he insists, "To where your boss is." The camera captures the back of the suited recruiter's head as a tense silence fills the dark alleyway. Turning around slowly with a calm expression, the recruiter simply answers, "That's impossible." Facing him with an unflinching gaze, the recruiter states, "It's no use threatening me." But Ryu Kong-min smiles and asks, "Oh, really?" Ryu Kong-min pulls the trigger, and a rapid burst of plastic BB pellets shoots out of his gun with loud clacking sounds, catching the recruiter completely off guard. The recruiter stands wide-eyed in absolute shock as the pellets strike him. The silent night sky hangs over the quiet alley as the recruiter stutters, "What are you?" Realizing there is no blood or bullet wound, the recruiter brushes off his jacket and exclaims, "What are you doing with a BB gun?" Holding up his toy gun, Ryu Kong-min smirks and remarks, "Huh, you're not scared?" While the recruiter responds, "I am surprised. Surprised that a 17-year-old is carrying a toy." Standing opposite each other under the dim streetlights, Ryu Kong-min asks, "How did you know that this is a toy gun?" Ryu Kong-min's eyes narrow as he whispers, "I don't know what you mean." The recruiter smiles warmly and mysteriously, replying, "There's no way a high school student in Korea would have a real gun." Ryu Kong-min's toy gun is easily identified by the recruiter, who calmly points out that it is lighter than a real gun, has a cheap paint job, a squeaky toy spring, and noticeable plastic friction on the trigger. Keeping it simple, Ryu Kang-min remarks dryly, "You said you'd keep it simple." Looking back at him, the recruiter asks, "May I ask you a question as well?" Walking closer to Ryu Kong-min, the recruiter takes a step forward and asks what his true goal is. Turning his head with a sharp, piercing glare, the recruiter asks, "In approaching our network?" Ryu Kong-min's eye widens in surprise as the gravity of the question sinks in. Breaking the tense silence, Ryu Kong-min dramatically grabs his ear and exclaims, "Whoa, that gave me goosebumps! Why did you suddenly whisper in my ear?" Rubbing his ears in annoyance, Ryu Kong-min yells, "You're the one who approached me. This is right outside my house." To which the recruiter calmly concedes, "Now that you mention it, you're right." The recruiter walks away, coolly stating, "Tomorrow at 2 p.m. He continues, "I'll be waiting at the address on the business card." As the recruiter departs, Ryu Kong-min watches him with a questioning look while the man mutters, "But it's strange." Ryu Kong-min is left standing alone in shock when the recruiter adds, "It's clearly a toy gun, but don't you smell gunpowder?" Looking down thoughtfully, Ryu Kong-min wonders to himself, did he notice? Staring at the recruiter's lapel pin, Ryu Kong-min realizes, that guy, he's no ordinary salesman. The suited recruiter disappears into the dark street, leaving behind a mysterious and powerful aura. Later that night, Ryu Kang-min's dark bedroom is quiet, with a single light shining through the crack of the open wardrobe door. Inside his wardrobe, a clean school uniform blazer with his name tag hangs neatly on a hanger. Under the beam of light, a voiceover remarks, "Just as we expected, he made contact." A heavy-duty laptop displays complex encrypted signal data and waveform analysis under the label network. The narration continues, describing them as an organization that uses minors to create social issues and profit from them, as a row of mannequins dressed in official public service uniforms stands lined up in the shadows. A large corkboard is covered with maps, suspect profiles, and blueprints, all intricately linked with pinned red strings. A voice notes, is highly unlikely, as a man sits at his desk studying the massive wall of information under a lamp. Unpeeling a plastic toy chocolate egg, Ryu Kangmin thinks, they lie so simply. He looks at the egg in his hands and adds, without any effort. On his desk lies a toy assembly manual, with a voice asking, did you write Ryu Kangmin to be stupid? And another answering, no, I didn't. Prying open the chocolate shell, he uncovers a plastic capsule. As the narration notes, they disguise themselves as an illegal circle made entirely of students. Sweating from a rigorous workout, the blonde woman thinks, but in reality, they're a massive underworld criminal organization. Stretching her body gracefully on a yoga mat, she identifies them, stating, that is Korea's network. From a wide view of her spacious traditional room, she meditates and notes, just like how we disguise ourselves as a hotel casino, we're quite similar. She continues her workout, explaining, to operate in a safe country like Korea, they must have needed minors as a front to deceive the authorities. Looking up at the ceiling of the quiet room, she contemplates, there is still a lot we don't know about them. With a sharp and determined look, she wonders, perhaps they really are the Batala of Korea, or at least a group worthy of that name, as the image of the recruiter stands against a geometric symbol background. From behind, she continues to stretch and comments, to think you've already caught their eye. That was fast. Listening through her wireless earbud, she hears Ryu Kangmin's voice respond, it's not fast at all. On Ryu Kangmin's investigation board, the red strings weave across the maps and files as he complains, even after using all our information to investigate, analyze, and deduce, the glowing red lines crisscross a subway transit map. A shadow portrait of an unidentified bald suspect is pinned to the corkboard. The camera pans across the massive web of documents as Ryu Kangmin laments, I'm still nowhere near the main target. The shadow suspect's photos revealed under the name Lee San. Ryu Kangmin tightly squeezes the plastic capsule in his fist, resolved, to get to him, I need things to move much faster. Opening the capsule with a click, he finds a toy figurine of a blonde-haired man holding two guns. Looking closely at the figurine, Ryu Kangmin sighs, if only that guy hadn't been hit by a car, I could have pried more information out of him. The scene shifts to the exterior of a massive, modern university hospital building under a clear blue sky. Inside a patient room, the television broadcasts a news report. Last night, the electronic billboard at Hongdae intersection was hacked, and illegal footage was broadcasted. Next to a hanging IV drip, the news anchor reports the police are tracking the hacker, but the investigation has hit a snag, prompting someone to murmur, they didn't catch him? The heavily bandaged, bruised victim lying in the bed screams in frustration, fucking useless cops. He continues to complain to his doctor, because of that bastard hacker, an innocent victim like me is stuck in this mess. The doctor with messy hair covering his eyes smiles mysteriously while holding the IV line, saying, what an interesting incident, to which the angry patient snaps, shut up, because it's not funny at all. A severely injured patient in a neck brace lies in a hospital bed asking why the hacker did such a thing, only to admit he has no idea and call him a crazy bastard. Looking terrified, the bandaged patient sweats as he reveals that the culprit wasn't just a hacker but was actually carrying a real gun. Standing by the hospital bed, the doctor questions how someone could possess a real gun in Korea, to which the frustrated patient screams that he has no idea. A close-up shows a subtle, mysterious smirk spreading across the doctor's face as he listens to the patient. Adjusting the IV line, the doctor looks down at the patient with his eyes shadowed and asks if he really doesn't know anything at all. Reaching into his coat pocket to retrieve a syringe, the doctor admits he was hoping to get some useful information, catching the patient completely off guard. The doctor inserts the syringe into the patient's IV bag, calmly noting that since the patient has just become an adult, his role is about to end. With his face completely shadowed and a red question mark flashing above him, the doctor grins creepily and declares that the patient's role ends right here. Unaware of the danger, the patient looks at him in annoyance, asking what he has been babbling about this whole time and call him an annoying prick. Squinting with a suspicious look, the patient begins to doubt his caregiver and asks if he is really a doctor. Staring intensely at him, the patient's eyes fill with sweat as he repeats, "You are, right?" Looking down at the helpless patient, the mysterious doctor remarks that what is about to happen will make for an interesting headline. A syringe lies on a desk next to spilled droplets of red liquid, while the doctor's voice notes that the headline will report a tragic death of a medical staff member due to drug abuse. A close-up of the shadow doctor shows him adjusting the IV drip controller as he smoothly describes the fake news headline. The patient is struck with terror as he looks down at his hand, realizing he is handcuffed to the bed rails while muttering, "Drug abuse? Death?" Panicking, the patient sits up abruptly in bed and screams, "What kind of crazy bullshit is that?" Handcuffs rattle loudly as the patient tries to pull his hand away, only to find himself securely locked to the metal frame of the bed. Thrashing around in complete panic, the patient desperately yells, "What is this? Untie me! Untie me right now!" In extreme terror, the patient screams at the top of his lungs, demanding to know who the doctor is and why he is doing this to him. Resting a finger on his chin, the doctor calmly replies that he hasn't introduced himself yet. Leaning forward with a dark, composed expression, the doctor reveals that he is from the organization that hired the patient, prompting a shocked gasp. Displaying a metal badge engraved with a complex geometric pattern, the doctor's eyes glow red as his face remains in shadow, declaring the organization's name, Network. The poison quickly takes effect, causing blood to stream down the patient's nose as his eyes turn bloodshot and he chokes out a pained groan. The patient's hand trembles violently against the handcuffs as he chokes and coughs, while the doctor notes that he heard victims die instantly from blood backflowing out of their eyes, nose, and mouth. As the patient's hand goes completely limp and veins bulge on his skin, the doctor admits that he didn't feel much when he first heard about the injection's effects. Standing over the lifeless body splattered with blood, the shadowed doctor looks down and remarks that seeing it in person is actually pretty fascinating. The scene shifts to a bright, bustling city intersection surrounded by towering skyscrapers on a clear day. A close-up of a young man's wide, intense eyes captures his frustration as a voice states, "You told me to be here by 2. Holding up a black card bearing the silver geometric network symbol, he mutters that he was told they would meet at this spot. Standing completely alone on the empty sidewalk, the suited young man looks around holding his phone, wondering why there is nobody there. Suddenly, a coughing and gasping sound behind him causes the young man to turn around in surprise, recognizing the person as Ryu Kong-min. Ryu Kong-min, dressed in a casual white hoodie, scratches the back of his neck with a cheerful smile and asks if he has been waiting long. Stunned by his casual appearance, the suited student exclaims, "Wi-Fi?" To which Ryu Kong-min proudly responds that he is from Network. Leaning in close, the suited student criticizes Ryu Kong-min's lateness, questioning if Korea isn't supposed to be a polite nation and asking if he came from abroad, while a sweating Ryu Kong-min apologizes and explains he had an urgent matter to take care of. Leaning even closer with an intense stare, the suited student questions where yesterday's luxurious gentleman went and why a kid in a hoodie showed up, asking if this is some pyramid scheme where they show you the successful guy first. Ryu Kong-min chuckles and denies the claim, pulling out a key fob and pressing it, which emits a loud beep that catches the suited student's attention. A sleek, white Rolls-Royce revs its engine as it pulls up, while Ryu Kang-min confidently promises to provide a luxurious escort, leaving the student in absolute shock. The student's eye dilates in massive shock as the reflection of the high-end luxury vehicle fills his vision. Sitting in the luxury car, the student ecstatically licks the silver hood ornament, exclaiming that choosing Network was the best decision of his life, while a bewildered Ryu Kang-min asks what he is doing and gets the response, "I'm tasting success." From outside the car, Ryu Kang-min awkwardly suggests they get inside first, while the student clings to the hood and licks the silver emblem, muttering that success tastes sweet. The car accelerates with a sudden, powerful burst of speed, sending the student screaming in pure excitement. Thrown back by the extreme acceleration, the student crazily shouts that a V12 twin-turbo engine hits different, while a panicked Ryu Kang-min yells that it's too dangerous. As the car speeds past a green highway sign pointing toward Gyeonggi and Hwasong, Ryu Kang-min screams that they are on the highway and will crash if they aren't careful. Smiling wildly with a manic expression, the student dismisses his worries, claiming that a light bump won't kill them. Sweating profusely with a completely exhausted and deadpan expression, Ryu Kang-min mutters that they will definitely die at this speed. An overhead view shows the white luxury car speeding down the center of the highway, while Ryu Kang-min warns that the initial impact will throw them out, shattering their skulls and spines. Rushing close to the fast-moving asphalt, Ryu Kang-min's voice warns that they will scrape against the road, causing friction burns and massive blood loss. The car weaves dangerously between large vehicles on the highway as Ryu Kang-min finishes his grim prediction, saying that oncoming cars will suck them under their wheels. Turning back with a bored, creepy half-glance, the student remarks that Ryu's words are incredibly morbid, asking if he studied how people die. A close-up of Ryu Kangmin's mouth shows a dark, subtle smile forming as he quietly repeats the words, "How people die." Ryu Kangmin smiles knowingly and remarks, "You know that better than anyone." A tense silence hangs in the air as the student keeps his lips tightly sealed, processing Ryu Kangmin's provocative words. Looking slightly unnerved, the student turns away with a smirk and scoffs, "Whoa, creepy. How would I know something like that?" Ryu Kangmin lets out a wry grin, responding, "You're a worse actor than I thought." Leaning back, Ryu Kangmin confidently names his true identity, Batala's Spade A. The student's playful facade completely vanishes, replaced by a cold, deadly gaze that chills the air inside the car. He slowly turns his head, his wide eyes boring into Ryu Kangmin with intense, unmasked hostility. Stripped of his composure, the student mutters in disbelief. "What?" His eye dilating in pure shock, he demands in a low, dangerous tone, "What did you just say?" Looking down at his digital watch, Ryu Kangmin casually asks, "Shall I introduce myself first?" Extending his hand, Ryu Kangmin calmly introduces himself. "Nice to meet you. I'm the one you've been desperately looking for." With his eyes glowing a sinister red and a creepy grin spreading across his face, he reveals his true name, Lee San. The scene shifts back to the hospital corridor, where the glasses-wearing assistant in a suit reports, "It's been handled." He continues to brief his superior, saying, "Regarding the incident at the studio apartment last night, it was an unauthorized action by an underage member. The property damage caused during the process, the fingerprints, the bloodstains, the CCTV footage, and all the complaints. I've made it all disappear." Showing a photo of a young female witness, he adds, "As for the female witness, she showed no signs of external trauma, so we finished up with drugs for memory erasure." The doctor looks up with deep skepticism and questions, "At a scene where bullets were flying, she didn't have any external trauma?" The doctor explains with medical authority, "Just because there's no visible laceration doesn't mean we can rule out delayed intra-abdominal bleeding. We'll do a CT scan and then proceed with follow-up." Taken aback by the sudden medical jargon, the assistant asks in confusion, "Excuse me?" Dropping the serious act, the doctor smirks playfully and asks, "Well, did I sound like a doctor just now?" He proudly brags, "I practiced all night while watching medical dramas. Was it not good?" Prompting the assistant to sigh and say, "I'll continue the report." While the doctor poses for a selfie saying, "Scalpel," the assistant gets back on track. "I've looked into Ryu Kangmin." Walking down the corridor, the assistant reveals, on paper, he was just an ordinary high school student. But his basic administrative records and school database were all falsified. After checking his true identity through an international broker, it turns out he's from the Philippines and is a contract killer. The doctor turns back in surprise, repeating, "A contract killer?" He scoffs at the absurdity, saying, "A professional killer fighting a high schooler? Even a passing pudding would laugh at that." The doctor asks with deadpan humor, "I couldn't believe it either. That the pudding would laugh?" The assistant flatly shuts him down, responding, "No." The assistant continues with a grim tone. It's the organization he belongs to, as the corridor lights start to flicker menacingly. The assistant delivers the shocking revelation. It's because he's from Batala. The name triggers a deep shock within the doctor, who mutters in disbelief, "Batala, Batala. Is it the same Batala I'm thinking of?" the doctor asks, to which the assistant grimly confirms, "Yes." A heavy, suffocating silence fills the hospital hallway as the implications of the name sink in. The doctor chuckles darkly, his voice trembling slightly. From the top contract killing group in the Philippines, a creepy, manic smile spreads across the doctor's face as he declares, "I should meet him and get an autograph." Back on the highway, the luxurious white Rolls-Royce speeds forward through the traffic. Inside the car, Ryu Kangmin's voice repeats smoothly, "Nice to meet you." "I'm Lee San," he introduces himself, his red eyes gleaming with hidden danger. Spade A's eye narrows as he stares intently at the self-proclaimed Lee San, realizing the gravity of the situation. The name echoes in his mind as he mutters in utter astonishment, "Lee San?" He recalls his mission briefing, remembering the handler's voice. The target's name is Lee San, nationality, South Korea, currently residing in Seoul. Realizing that the legendary target is sitting right next to him in the car, a surge of adrenaline rushes through him. His expression hardens, his breathing slowing down as he prepares for a sudden confrontation. Slowly, his hand tenses on his lap, veins bulging on his skin as he readies himself to make a lethal move. Reading him like an open book, Ryu Kangmin leans in whisper close and asks, "Let's kill him here. Is that what you're thinking?" Ryu points a playful finger gun at him and advises with a cool smirk, "Think about it logically. Ryu Kangmin looks out the window, confidently declaring, "When meeting a contractor from Batala, do you think I'd come unprepared?" As the luxury white Rolls-Royce speeds forward, its massive front tire spins with a roaring vroom on the highway pavement. Ryu Kangmin's voice smoothly continues, "Of course." Ryu Kangmin smiles knowingly and pulls back his hoodie collar to reveal the silver spade emblem of the organization printed on his shoulder. Spade A. The suited high school student stares at him in absolute shock, his eyes wide as he processes the sudden revelation, muttering a stunned, "Ah." Slowly, his expression of shock melts away, replaced by a dark, knowing smirk as he remarks, "This is bad." On an elegant wooden table, a closed envelope sealed with a golden spade insignia sits next to a warm cup of coffee. The student's voice continues. They've probably figured it out by now. Sitting on a tropical seaside terrace, a beautiful silver-haired woman in a sleeveless dark top smiles and says, "I only did the identity laundering sloppily because you told me to." Leaning her face close against her hand, she smiles mischievously. Her caption identifies her as Heart 3, a casino dealer and support agent for Hotel Batala, as she asks, "But are you sure about this?" A hand lifts a golden-rimmed teacup from its saucer with a gentle clink as the voice responds, "Make sure forged identities are flawless. That's what you taught me." Sitting across the table, a gorgeous blonde woman with light blue eyes holds her cup of coffee and adds, "Isn't it, boss?" From an overhead angle, the two women sit at a round table on a brick terrace overlooking a beach. Heart 3 questions, "Why did you leave flaws on purpose? Did you just want an excuse to kill some annoying guy?" To which the blonde woman calmly replies, "Of course not." Looking down thoughtfully as she cradles her warm cup of coffee, the blonde woman explains, to reach the inner depths of the organization in the shortest time possible, that he needs to reveal himself. Looking at Heart 3 from behind, the blonde woman confidently declares, "That's Spade A's call." Heart 3 rests her cheek on her hand, a wry smile playing on her lips. So he's making them curious enough to come find him? Well, it makes some sense. Crossing her arms as she looks down at the spade envelope on the table, Heart 3 questions with deep curiosity. But then what? Sugar cube resting on a wooden surface is swarmed by a colony of black ants as Heart 3's warning echoes. If they find out their target is Lee Sand, do you think they'll just sit still? He'll either end up dead or torn apart. It'll be one or the other. A quiet breeze rustles the short blonde hair of the mysterious woman as she turns her back to look out over the scenic ocean view. With a gentle clink, the blonde woman reaches out to lift the lid of a glass sugar container on the table, asking, "Do you know how to perfectly deceive someone?" Heart 3's violet eyes sparkle with amusement as she leans in closer, asking, "A honey trap?" The blonde woman smiles gently as a large white sugar cube is lifted on a silver spoon, floating as if weightless. She responds, "A spoon of lies within the truth." A close-up shows the golden striped porcelain teacup filled to the brim with dark, rich coffee. You mix a single spoonful of lies. With a soft splash, the white sugar cube plunges straight into the center of the dark coffee, dissolving completely into 100 pure truth. High above the highway, a white luxury Rolls-Royce speeds forward, closely flanked and escorted by a synchronized convoy of 4 black G-Wagons. Inside the car, Ryu Kangmin turns to the suited student and addresses him directly. "Actually, I already know everything. The reason you came to Korea under a fake identity." Leaning in close with a shocking question mark appearing in the air, Ryu Kangmin whispers, "You're being hunted by Batala, aren't you?" Gesturing playfully with his hands, Ryu Kangmin mocks him gently, saying, "I know freedom is great, but betraying the organization and running away? Isn't that a bit reckless?" The suited student keeps his eyes closed in deep silence, calmly listening to Ryu Kangmin's provocative words without showing any visible anger. With a tired sigh, the student rests his face on his hand while Ryu Kangmin leans in with a wide grin, demanding, "Something happened that pisses me off just thinking about it." "What was it? I'm curious, so tell me." A close-up of the suited student's eyes reveals a sharp, dangerous gaze filled with absolute calculation. The stage is perfectly set. Sunlight breaks through a thick blanket of gray, swirling clouds high up in the sky. Now all I have to do is... A highly stylized silhouette of Spade A with glowing pink eyes is shown against a backdrop of complex clockwork gears and fading memories, and reconstruct them into a new scenario. A close-up of Spade A's mouth reveals a subtle, confident grin as he mutters, "Where should I start?" Flashbacks show a corrupt politician, the same congressman slumped over and covered in blood after a hit, and a flight boarding pass to Korea under the name Ryu Kangmin. After one last mission to eliminate a congressman, I was promised my retirement. I thought I could finally return to Korea and enjoy my freedom. Further memories show a man crouching near instant noodles, a box cutter resting on a box, and a sudden lethal strike in the dark. But a member of the organization waiting in Korea came to kill me. Resting his chin on his fist, Spade A looks out the car window, his reflection showing a deeply cynical gaze. Batala never had any intention of letting me go in the first place. With a quiet click, Spade A opens a storage compartment in the car console, while Ryu Kang-min asks, so you're on the run?
The leather seat creaks as Ryu Kang-min leans forward in curiosity, questioning, then shouldn't you have stayed hidden where no one could find you?
Inside the open mini-fridge console, a cold cup of custard pudding and a silver spoon sit neatly on a metallic shelf. Why are you so desperate to stand out?
Ryu Kang-min smiles,
His eyes narrowing with deep understanding, because that's the only way you'd react. Looking down from above, Spade A reaches his hand inside the luxury car's built-in mini-fridge. They say if you want to hide a dog, you should hide it in a dog cafe, right? Spade A takes out the custard pudding as Ryu Kang-min watches with interest. Batala will try to kill me eventually. I need something to protect me from them. Spade A holds out the pudding cup with a spoon resting on top, offering it to Ryu Kang-min with a friendly smile. Guarantee my safety. In exchange, I'll work for you. Holding the pudding cup and spoon, Ryu Kang-min sits back and chuckles. Aren't you asking too much from an organization full of students? To which Spade A smirks and asks, what, did I come to the wrong place? Spade A's expression turns deadly serious as he holds up the spoon, stating coldly, the network I know? With a sudden scoop, Spade A plunges the spoon deep into the smooth custard pudding, declaring, is a group of contract tillers. Back at the beachside terrace, a hand slowly stirs the dark coffee with a clink of a spoon. The underage members are just a distraction. The blonde woman closes her eyes as she takes a peaceful, elegant sip of her coffee. They're just a disposable smokescreen to cover up the murders. Looking across the table, Heart 3 questions, then I guess Kangmin's death? Teens hijack bus for a drive-through run? Will it be buried under headlines like that? To which the blonde woman responds, I'm sorry to say, but that won't happen. An overhead view shows the two women conversing quietly at their private table on the wooden deck. Heart 3 asks, oh, where's all that confidence coming from? A close-up of the blonde woman's elegant lips shows her lowering her cup as she softly murmurs, do you really need a reason? Looking up with a confident smile, the blonde woman's striking blue eyes gleam as she proudly declares, I'm Spade A, Batalia's Spade A joining network. That's certainly a sweet offer, but I'll have to pass. I've had enough sweets for now. Too much sugar causes cavities, doesn't it? And I'm terrified of the dentist. You never know, right? There might be lies mixed in with what you told me, or maybe you approached us with ulterior motives. Like a poisoned chalice. It was a pleasant chat, but this is where we part ways, Ryu Kang-min says, before bursting into sudden laughter. Question mark? Why don't you just be honest? Ryu Kang-min chuckles. You're talking in circles with all this pudding and dentist crap. Spade A responds blankly. What are you talking about? The potential for armed conflict with Batala, if you decide to take me in. You're scared, aren't you? Bring in a whole swarm of goons just to meet one guy like me. Batala's got you shaking in your boots, huh? I totally get it. Network might be the best in the business, but only within Korea. We're the ones who'd win. A gloomy, rusted Ferris wheel creaks loudly under a dark, heavy sky, casting an eerie shadow over an abandoned amusement park. It's been 10 years since I've been to an amusement park. The vibe isn't quite what I remember. Is it Halloween season? This place closed down a long time ago. There are no people and no CCTV cameras. It's the perfect spot to dispose of a body. Actually, I was planning to kill you here today, along with this person. You said you were planning to, Spade A remarks calmly, to which Ryu Kang-min enthusiastically replies, yes, I've changed my mind. When I first received the report about you, there was one thing that puzzled me. The female witness showed no signs of physical trauma, so we finished the job with drugs and a memory wipe. In a scene where bullets were flying everywhere, she didn't have a single scratch? That means you fought while protecting the witness? Why? To avoid involving a third party as a contractor? It would have been more efficient to just eliminate the witness. Was it simply to avoid making a scene? But wasn't your intention to draw attention? Choi Hayon? What the hell is this? Spade A mutters in shock. Oh, this? Ryu Kang-min replies casually. I want to see if you're actually a talented asset, and if you're truly Batala's Spade A. Need to confirm it. I mean, take a big spoonful of that pudding. Do that, and I'll let you join us. Surely one of the world's top contractors wouldn't be swayed by something as trivial as sentiment? Well, go ahead. Spade A gazes down silently at the metal spoon in his hand, a heavy, tense atmosphere settling over him as he weighs his choices. A big spoonful. Will a family size do? Spade A asks with a confident smirk, holding up a giant reflective spoon. Here is the 127-centimeter parfait tower you ordered. It's way too big. Is this whole thing supposed to fit in my stomach? My brain is going to be swimming in sugar, one of the boys groans, while the tattoo-sleeved man on the phone mutters, what is she even doing? She's the one who made a fuss about eating this. Did she get kidnapped or something? He wonders, as the automated operator responds, the person you are calling is unavailable. Please leave a message. Take that pudding and take a big spoonful. Surely one of the best contractors like you won't be swayed by something as trivial as personal feelings. A big spoonful? Is a family-sized portion enough? A close-up shows the sharp, resolute chin and mouth of a student dressed in a high school uniform with a neat white collar and red tie. A top-secret dossier reveals the details of Network's main target associated with Bathala, identifying him as a suspected minor whose address and physical details remain unknown, going by the name Lee San. He is currently... Under the harsh glare of a single spotlight, a silver-haired youth sits calmly at a table, holding a hand of playing cards with a subtle, knowing smile. Sitting opposite each other under the spotlight, the silver-haired youth and the suited student begin a tense game of cards at a round wooden table, surrounded by scattered cards on the floor. However, is this guy the real Lee Sam? What if he's a fake, set up just to test me? It's a 50-50 chance. The suited student stares intensely over two cards in his hand, one depicting a crash test dummy and the other depicting a jester sitting on a crescent moon. If I take out a fake, the real one will realize my goal and vanish immediately. I can't act recklessly. A close-up reveals Choi Hyeon, sweat-drenched and terrified, with her mouth taped shut in the darkness. For now. You were so full of energy earlier. But now that it's time, you can't do it. Hup! The student throws his body into a sudden kick, forcing open the trunk of a luxury car. The silver-haired boy's eye widens in sudden shock, staring intently at the unfolding scene before him. Hidden within the dark, cramped confines of the open car trunk, a mysterious figure in a red shirt lies bound and crumpled. You really did it, didn't you? It's a bit gross now that I've stabbed it. Maybe because it's a fake. The bound captive, a woman with long black hair, grins maniacally as she squirms against the heavy chains locking her down. When did you realize? From the very beginning. I worked so hard to surprise you, but your reaction is so dull. It's disappointing. That's right. That person was a fake disguised as your friend. A member of the network? A contractor? To be precise, a former member of the network. A traitor. With a sickening, tearing sound, she begins to peel off a highly realistic disguise mask from her face, exposing the true identity hidden underneath. You went through the trouble of capturing a traitor like me, and I wondered why you were making me do this. Was it for a surprise party? Lee Daniel, a former network member branded as a traitor for desertion and the murder of civilians, smiles mockingly through his blonde hair. A traitor, huh? Is it just me or is there an ulterior motive here? Fight each other with your lives on the line. Only the winner gets to join our team. Now then, let's begin. A devastating force slams down from above as the battle suddenly erupts. With a thunderous crash, a massive blow splits the concrete and smashes the luxury car completely in half as Lee Daniel leaps into the air with incredible agility. It looks wonderful. Perfectly symmetrical. A beautiful decalcomania. So artistic. It's the perfect decoration for my work. What are you talking about all of a sudden? I am an artist who kills people and turns them into works of art. I present pieces to the art world, where the target's corpse is sublimated into a high-level object. I still remember my last piece especially well. The saturation was so vivid. I used the target's family as the surrounding decor. So you didn't just kill innocent people? You played around with their bodies too? You're not just a psycho. You're an artistic psycho. Lee Daniel gazes up with an eerie calm, completely unfazed as chains rattle around his neck. I'll take that as a compliment. It's only natural you wouldn't understand. An artist needs a flexible mind, like the graceful movements of a woman. Now then, let me explain what kind of piece I'll turn you into. Before rigor mortis sets in, I'll need your joints and facial muscles to capture the dynamic life of a contractor. I'll soak the body in hydrogen peroxide, bleaching it white to express withered humanity. For the finishing touch, I'll impale your body on a pole. It will represent stolen freedom. So basically, you're gonna turn me into a carousel horse? Comparing my work to a carousel horse? How amusing. But my work is nothing like some cheap, mass-produced junk. With a sudden, devastating swing of his chains, Lee Daniel completely smashes the carousel horses into shattered fragments. Standing proudly amidst the rising dust and smoke, Lee Daniel looks over the ruins of the carousel. Comparing my art to those chunks of metal and plastic, it's on a completely different level.
What's wrong with metal and plastic, huh?
Watch your mouth. A true artist doesn't blame his materials. Such a crude, direct attack, so predictable and cliché, Lee Daniels scoffs, before suddenly noticing chains wrapping securely around him. How's my work?
A magic circle? Ninth circle. Meteor.
I've sublimated the sorrow of the dead horse into the form of a magic circle. Listening to this childish nonsense, I feel like my own artistic sense is being tainted. The real value of this piece starts now. Why won't this come loose? They really bolted this pole down tight. Let's see. Oh, here it comes. Lee Daniels' eyes widen in sheer disbelief as a massive metal gondola from the Ferris wheel plummets directly toward him. Ah? Lee Daniel mutters in confusion, a split second before the heavy metal cabin crashes violently down, crushing him in an explosion of dust and debris. Ah, how unpleasant. I pity you for calling something like this art. I'll be kind enough to teach you. Lifting the massive metal wreckage off himself with incredible strength, a bloodied Lee Daniel glares forward. Just how beautiful art can be. Bark? A tiny white toy dog squeaks and rolls up to Lee Daniels' bare feet, letting out a cheap electronic bark. A dog? Toy? Ah, sorry, what did you just say? I was looking for tools and didn't hear you. An eye for an eye, art for art. They say art is better the flashier it is, right? Let's start again. With blinding brilliance,